Kurt is not your typical useless protagonist. He's way worse than that, well, at least until he figures out that he possesses incredible hidden skills. The story begins in a distant small town where an S-ranked wolf monster has attacked, and the villagers have spent their life savings on an adventuring party to save their worthless lives. The party is called the Flaming Dragon Fang, consisting of 3 brave adventurers and, you guessed it, the worthless loser Kurt, who has no business being there. The monster, of course, preys on the weak first and shoves Kurt away from the battlefield. With no more liabilities, the heroes swiftly deal with the threat and subjugate the beast. These 3 competent heroes are Bandana, the ranger, Golnova, the fiery warrior, and Marlefist, the healer. Just after this event, the team goes on to become known as the heroes who stopped a calamity. But what is a powerless loser doing in a team of heroes, you may ask? Well, Kurt actually handles the toughest job of them all, doing the heroes' household chores while they go out to save the world. Basically, he's a housewife. For instance, whenever the heroes are unsatisfied with the food, they make Kurt cook them a better meal. However, this time, Bandana mentions that this will be the last time they'll be having Kurt's cooking, as their leader, Golnova, has decided to fire his worthless ass from the party. Apparently, having cooking skills isn't enough to be part of a reputable party like theirs, and Kurt is so incompetent that he can't even defeat a slime on his own. The heroes have other reasons as well. They want to become stronger, and to do so, they need to recruit a mage, as they lack one in their party. But because the laws of this world restrict them from having more than 4 members in their party, they have no other option but to let Kurt go. Kurt begs Golnova to reconsider, but gets kicked in the gut instead. None of the heroes show him any pity. Rather, they laugh at him. And with that, Kurt is now officially unemployed. Like most of you who comment, "Bro fell off," and "first on my videos." Anyway, with nowhere to go, Kurt heads back to the city looking for work and visits a place called Hello Workstation. There, he is greeted by an eccentric receptionist who collects his personal info and then administers an aptitude test to see how strong he is and whether he has any hidden talents. Typically, the ranking is from SSS to D, but when Kurt's result comes in, it's revealed that he got a score of G in all of the tests he took, meaning he has absolutely no combat skills at all. This is beyond embarrassing, but the receptionist tells Kurt not to worry, as she's certain there are some trade jobs that even a loser like him is capable of doing. Moreover, there are other aptitude tests Kurt can take, like blacksmithing or alchemy, so she encourages him to try those instead of giving up. Unfortunately, the technicians needed for those tests are currently on break, so Kurt will have to wait until next week to take them. Upon learning that the kid needs money now, the receptionist decides to assign him some construction work and sends him to the neighboring town as a worker to help repair the town's boundary walls. Kurt heads off immediately and meets with a recruiter, who is super disappointed that the workstation sent such a malnourished kid to him. But because his team is shorthanded, he doesn't complain much and gives Kurt the task of making cement on the ground and then mending the walls with it. Kurt decides to pour his mana into strengthening the cement, even though the recruiter hasn't mentioned anything regarding that, and starts working. The recruiter returns 3 hours later and is absolutely amazed to learn that Kurt has repaired a whole third of the western wall all by himself. Kurt didn't have any equipment at all, which makes the recruiter wonder how this kid did it. Kurt explains the process, but the recruiter still fails to make any sense of it. Anyway, because Kurt is quite good at this, the recruiter decides to hire him permanently and gives him a good amount of money as payment, saying he got a bonus for his performance. This encourages Kurt to give his best even more. Over the next 3 days, he repairs the west and north walls all by himself. But instead of being impressed, the recruiter becomes irritated and fires him. He explains that the wall repairs are meant to provide work for those struggling financially, and if Kurt keeps working here, there won't be any jobs left for them. The recruiter believes that Kurt has SS-Rank working skills, so he advises him to find work in the capital instead and sends him away with the day's payment. Kurt doesn't understand whether the recruiter's feedback was genuine or just flattery, so he goes to the workstation, seeking the receptionist's guidance. The technicians still haven't arrived yet, so he'll have to wait a few more days before getting his aptitude test. But a job opportunity comes knocking in the form of a woman named Ulysses, who is desperately in need of a miner. "Wait, is that you, Drake?" Jokes aside, Kurt approaches Ulysses, claiming that he used to excavate in the mines in the past. Ulysses doesn't want to hire a skinny, helpless child, but at the same time, she doesn't have enough money to hire a brawny dwarf. With limited options, she decides to hire Kurt. As Kurt leaves with Ulysses, the receptionist checks and finds out that Kurt was paid a whopping 200 gold coins by the construction recruiter, leaving her wondering how that is even possible. Losing balance, she stumbles into a pile of sandbags used to measure how much mana a person possesses. Her associate explains that the more mana a person has, the heavier these bags become. But the problem is that no one has ever been capable enough to activate them, so she considers them worthless and tells the receptionist to move them outside. As the receptionist tries to pick up one of the bags, she notices that it has gotten heavier. Remembering that Kurt had lifted one of these earlier, she realizes that he possesses a good amount of mana, maybe too much. Meanwhile, a lot of time passes as Kurt and his employer, Ulysses, travel to the mountains. As the sun sets, Ulysses takes Kurt to her campsite. There is only one tent, so she tells Kurt to share it with her for the night. But Kurt refuses, saying he'll feel uncomfortable staying with a cute lady like her for too long. He even subtly mentions that he's never seen someone as beautiful as her, even after traveling around the world, making her blush like a tomato. She assumes he's just trying to flatter her since she doesn't consider herself cute. Changing the topic, she gives him a boiled potato for dinner. Kurt is surprisingly happy. It has been a long time since anyone has cooked for him, even if it's just boiling a potato. They eat together, and Kurt becomes even happier being treated as an equal, as his ex-party members never used to eat with him. He enjoys Ulysses' cooking quite a bit and offers her several compliments. I'm guessing this has something to do with what will happen moments later inside the tent. Later that night, Kurt tries every method known to mankind to sleep, but fails to get any shut-eye at all. He wonders if Ulysses is also awake, so he turns around only to discover that she is fast asleep, with her treasury left wide open. Kurt is shocked by the sight and almost screams out loud before managing to control his emotions. He quickly gets up before things get out of control and wonders if Ulysses is too naive for trusting a stranger. As he steps outside, Ulysses opens her eyes, meaning she was awake the whole time. She then reveals to us that she deliberately didn't put on any clothes to test whether Kurt was the kind of guy who'd try to take advantage of her. Now that she has determined he's a good guy, she can spend the entire week with him without any worries. She also mentions that she finds him cute, which makes her want to tease him as well. "Lady, are you sure you wanted to hire a miner with an O, or did you mean to hire one with an E?" The next morning, Ulysses wakes up, steps out of the tent, and finds Kurt still asleep. Realizing that he was outside in the wild all night, she notices her robe lying nearby with a broken button that has now been fixed, making her wonder if she hired the wrong person for this job because he seems way too much of a pookie to be working as a miner. Anyway, she wakes him up, telling him to get ready as they are going to venture into the mountains again. She also mentions that they need to mine enough to earn at least 10 gold before the week ends. Kurt asks if she has decided where they'll be digging, and she replies that she hasn't yet, but would prefer a location near their campsite. Kurt doesn't think digging randomly is a good idea, as the odds of finding rare ores or any ores at all are extremely low. It seems Ulysses has gotten her mining knowledge from playing Minecraft and doesn't know how things work in the real world. So, Kurt educates her and then takes it upon himself to find a proper location. After searching the area, Kurt finds a quarry and starts digging. Within a few minutes, he discovers a rock that he claims contains ores. He breaks it using the opposite side of a hammer, revealing several gemstone crystals inside. Each of these crystals can easily sell for around 3 gold, and since there are already more than 4 here, it means Ulysses has already reached her 10 gold goal for the week. But one should never turn away fortune when it knocks, so Ulysses tells Kurt to keep digging. Only a few hours pass before Kurt extracts every single gemstone from the quarry. Ulysses suggests they sell all of them, But Kurt disagrees, telling her that these gemstones are much smaller than the first crystals he extracted. He believes it would be better to turn the smaller ones into magic crystals. From what Ulysses knows, there are fewer than 10 magic craftsmen in the entire kingdom capable of manufacturing magic crystals, and even the smallest one takes over an hour to make. But Kurt does it instantly, leaving Ulysses' jaw on the floor. She points this out to Kurt, but not suspecting he has any special talent. He assumes magic craftsmen use some divine technique to craft magic crystals. Ulysses realizes they are not on the same page at all, but she doesn't bother educating the obvious blockhead and just lets him work peacefully for the rest of the day. In the evening, Ulysses decides to head back to the city to trade the materials Kurt collected, while Kurt suggests staying at the campsite since he wants to handle some household chores. Later, in the city, Ulysses is interrogated by the knights because she doesn't have any verified documents proving where she got the magic crystals from, making her look suspicious. Not wanting to snitch on Kurt, Ulysses plays her hidden card, showing an emblem to the knight, revealing that she's an adventurer who serves directly under the royal family when in reality, she used to serve under them. Regardless, she uses this privilege to convince the knight to let her use a teleportation gate, as she wants to visit the royal capital urgently. Upon arriving, Ulysses visits a store to sell the magic crystals and learns from the shopkeeper that these have 10 times the usual amount of mana imbued in them, making each one worth 10 gold. In total, Ulysses earns 500 gold for selling all of them. Before she leaves, the shopkeeper advises her not to sell these anywhere else, as others might scam her. She also inquires about the craftsman who made them, believing that someone with this level of skill should be working directly for the kingdom. But Ulysses, unwilling to reveal Kurt's identity without his permission, refuses to answer. The shopkeeper doesn't back down and orders her as a royal court mage to reveal who the craftsman is. But Ulysses still refuses, so the shopkeeper makes her a final offer. They want to make Kurt a director and an honorary count for the kingdom. Left completely bewildered, Ulysses rushes to the workstation, slamming her hands on the counter and demanding answers from the receptionist. Who the heck is this guy? Abusing her authority, Ulysses pulls Kurt's past information from the receptionist and cannot believe her eyes when she sees that he got a G rank in his aptitude test. Regardless, she hands over the 500 gold to the receptionist, instructing her to deposit it into Kurt's account. Before leaving, she also forbids her from revealing any information about Kurt to anyone. Ulysses then heads back to the campsite, only to find that Kurt has somehow transformed the entire place into a farmhouse in just under a day. Seriously, who the heck is this guy? Meanwhile, Golnova's party is out in the wilderness for the very first time after kicking Kurt out of their team, and it seems they've already met their match. None of their performance hits as hard as it used to, and I'm starting to think Kurt the useless loser had been unknowingly carrying them all along. With the healer Marlefus suddenly unable to heal anyone due to a strange lack of mana, Golnova turns to his newly hired mage, ordering him to use a fire spell or something against the tree monster. But the newbie pushes back, claiming Golnova is the one who's supposed to handle fire magic. As the whole party starts barking at each other, Bandana stands silently in the back, smirking like a classic villain, feeling absolutely thrilled that this team is now as good as dead. On the other side, Ulysses relays her oddities shopkeeper friend Mimiko's offer to Kurt, telling him that Mimiko, using her authority as a royal court mage, has recommended him for the position of director at a royal magic technology research lab. Kurt finds the offer hard to believe, and even if it's true, he turns it down, as he simply can't imagine himself in a role that puts someone like him above others. Besides, a part of him still longs to return to his ex-adventuring party, the Flaming Dragon Fang. On top of that, his current job as a miner under Ulysses is going well, so he doesn't see any reason to change. Gotta admit, bro might not be useless, but damn, he's brainless as heck. Anyway, Ulysses doesn't tell Kurt just how much gold she made from selling the magic crystals, and instead encourages him to mine some more ores for her. Kurt claims to have found another good vein nearby and gets up to leave, but Ulysses stops him, insisting he stay in and rest, assuming he stayed up all night building the log house. However, when Kurt casually mentions that he already slept 6 hours, Ulysses is left speechless. She just can't fathom how this guy managed to build that entire structure in such a short amount of time. Naturally, Kurt completely misreads her worried expression and assumes she's mad at him for oversleeping, so he promises to make it up to her for upsetting her. A few minutes later, Kurt takes Ulysses to the new mining spot, and after explaining his other plan to dig around the area where he discovered the large crystal the day before, he leaves her there to dig the area on her own. After mining all day, Ulysses finally finds a single ore and becomes overjoyed, thinking that if Kurt turns it into a magic crystal, she could sell it for over 10 gold and meet her quota. Yet at the same time, she doesn't want to take advantage of him, and perhaps that's why she hasn't touched a single penny of the 500 gold they earned from selling the crystals the day before. As the day winds down, she goes to check on Kurt, expecting to find the place in chaos, but she's completely floored to see that he's actually built a proper mining site. She steps into the mines, finally accepting that Kurt's been using cheat codes to get through life. But even then, she can't hold back her emotions after seeing how far he's gone beyond expectations. She asks him how his day's been, and he, in reply, claims to have underperformed today, stating that he's only mined tiny fragments of the ore he was looking for. He also shows her what he claims is a pile of useless shiny rocks, which he thinks aren't valuable, but as Ulysses realizes that all of these stones are mithril ores, she asks Kurt if he's out of his mind or something. Kurt states that back in his village, they used to harvest tons of mithril, but didn't have any real use for it, so they threw it away every time. Ulysses cannot fathom what kind of weird, dumb village Kurt is from, but she's more into the mithril he's mined, as these ores are far more valuable than gold or even platinum. Apparently, mithril ores are extremely rare in this world, but Ulysses doesn't have the energy to educate this blockhead about it. She recalls Kurt mentioning mining something much more valuable than mithril, which he deemed useless, so she asks him what ore in particular he's been looking for. Kurt nonchalantly reveals that he's been mining orichalcum, a legendary ore that is known as the metal of the gods. She just can't take Kurt's shit anymore, demanding he explain how he's able to find these with such ease. Kurt, the gamer boy, tells her that if she digs 7 kilometers into the ground, the chances of finding orichalcum are very high. At this point, Ulysses doesn't even want to know or ask Kurt how he dug 7 kilometers in just under a day and also came back up to the surface. With her hand on her head, she only inquires about the huge hole he dug, and he responds by saying that he's already filled that hole, knowing how dangerous it is. With that, the oddball and the lucky lady end their day at the mining site. After 2 more days of continuous mining, Kurt's week-long job comes to an end. The mine Kurt created is made so perfectly that it created a straight path from Kurt's city, Samalia, to the feudal lord's town. I might have missed it, but Ulysses apparently owns the mountains, and since the mining path is technically hers to have, she gives permission to the traveling merchant guild to use the path through it in return for a small maintenance fee. Deciding to use that money to pay her taxes might seem selfish, but since she has given all the money she got from the ores to Kurt's account, it's okay. Kurt returns to the city and runs into Bandana, who tells him that she is no longer a member of the Flaming Dragon Fang. Long story short, Golnova went mad after suffering from consecutive losses and created a ruckus everywhere. He wanted Kurt back as his unofficial slave so he could vent his frustration on him, and even threatened to hurt Bandana if she didn't bring him back to him. But instead of doing what she was told to, Bandana got Golnova arrested and left the party. However, Bandana doesn't tell Kurt all that, and goes with the story that she got fired by Golnova just like Kurt was. Kurt is let down hearing this news. He tells Bandana that he admires Golnova and owes him a lot, and that he really wanted to reunite with his old party members. So now that Bandana is fired as well, he doesn't think it will be possible anymore. I'm not entirely sure, but it really looks like Bandana is just as bad as her other party members, and that she too wants to abuse poor innocent Kurt as well. In the matter of seconds, she convinces him to take on her guild commission and sends him to the workshop of an Eitlier Meister. Basically, Eitliers are workshops that make and sell magical medicines, swords, and devices, with the head of an Eitlier being called an Eitlier Master. These people are very important in the town and are highly regarded. While on his way to the house, Kurt is surprised that someone as important as an Atelier would exist in this city. Shortly after, he arrives at the house belonging to the Atelier master and wonders why it is so modest. Just then, he knocks on the door and a young girl opens it. On seeing her, he wonders if someone as young as her could possibly be the Atelier master. However, she is surprised that he would be so dumb not to realize that she was just an elf. After that, he formally asks if she is the one he seeks, and she states that she is just an assistant named Michelle. Without wasting much time, he reveals that he was the person sent to help, and she happily takes him into the house. He assumes that he had been sent here to help in the Atelier, but it turns out that he would be doing the dishes and cleaning up the kitchen. As disappointed as he was, he accepts his fate. At that moment, Michelle gets called by her master, and she leaves him to get to work. He kits up in his work gear, and in a brief moment, gets done with the cleaning. After tidying up the place, the dummy is not wise enough to bail out and get his cash. Instead, he looks around for Michelle and ends up knocking at a door at the end of the hallway. A lady's voice is heard from within, and he opens it to find Princess Lyslop there. Although he doesn't seem to know who she is, the loser finds this weird since he probably hasn't seen someone as beautiful as her. Upon looking closely at her, he notices a weird spiral wound on her stomach. When he asks about it, he reveals that it's a curse. He asks to be allowed to take a closer look at it, and she agrees. At that moment, he touches it and figures that she can't feel pain from it. Fortunately, when he heals her stomach grumble, he figures that her appetite is still intact and offers to make something for her to eat. When he gets back to the kitchen, it dawns on him that the lady he had just touched was in her creation attire. The shock causes him to fall to the ground in shame. Elsewhere, Minako and Ulyssia talk about the mithril and orichalcum they found, and the fact that it is very costly. They wonder what would happen if word got out about Kurt, and Minako believes that the worst case would be that he would get kidnapped. They wonder how someone with such abilities as him has successfully remained hidden for this long. However, Ulyssia understands that he was a member of the Flaming Dragon Fang. Soon after, she also claims that she wants to set him up as an Atelier master in order to have his skills fixed before he gets out of hand. Furthermore, she states her plan to have him hire her as his bodyguard, although she is worried about how she will achieve that since Kurt has little knowledge of his full abilities and always thinks less of himself. Meanwhile, Kurt is almost done with the food he is cooking for Lyslot when Michelle returns with Lady Ophelia. On seeing them, he apologizes for using the kitchen without her permission, but she doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Instead, he looks closely at the porridge he is cooking, and he reveals that he is making it for the strange girl he had met in the room. Hearing him say this, Lady Ophelia is surprised that he has met the princess. Even though she makes him believe it's not a problem, she threatens him not to speak about her to anyone. After that, she hands him his pay for the day, and he is so thrilled by how much he made. Later on, he takes some porridge to the princess, who is very hungry at this time. Considering how her stomach grumbles again before the princess could eat, Lady Ophelia offers to taste the food for any poison. But Lyslot asks to be allowed to eat it like that since she trusted the man who cooked it, even though she only just met him. Some love at first sight moves in the works, not wanting to go against the princess. Lady Ophelia agrees and lets her eat it. However, when the princess takes a bite, she holds her neck and falls off the chair, causing Lady Ophelia to believe that she has indeed been poisoned. Just before she could run out for help, Princess Lyslop gets up to reveal that she is fine. At that moment, they soon realize that the weird spiral on the princess' stomach has disappeared. This meant that her curse had been cured. On the other hand, the evil people responsible for casting a curse on the princess have figured out that the curse has been broken. Due to this, they resort to ice-skaying her immediately. Meanwhile, later that night, Lady Ophelia and the princess go to meet Mimiko. When they get there, they find her with Ulyssia, and Lady Ophelia is skeptical about saying what she wants in front of her. However, Minako assures her that Ulyssia can be trusted. Just then, the princess reveals herself, and the two get on their knees immediately. They wonder why the princess has come to a place like this since she was rumored to be sick. But Lady Ophelia reveals that the princess was placed under a curse by people who had tried to assassinate her. She reveals that these people are against the peace that could come from the princess' existence. Amidst all this, Mimiko wonders how the princess was able to break such a powerful curse, and the princess excitedly reveals that she got help from a man named named Kurt. The sound of this name shocks Mimiko and Ulysses to the bones. Although it can't be left out of the equation, Ulysses still can't believe that Kurt's simple porridge was enough to break Princess Liselette's powerful curse. The fact that Kurt got himself involved in all of this in less than a day since they'd been apart makes Ulysses even more shocked. Moving on, Mimiko has her eyes on a few suspects she believes could be behind the plot to assassinate Princess Liselette. Since the attack came in the form of a curse, Mimiko has deduced that the culprit must be capable of tampering with the anti-curse wards placed throughout the royal palace. And according to her insider information, there are 3 people who could pull off something like that. The first suspect is Sanover Wristcats, the first general of the Royal Expeditionary Forces. The second is a man who looks like he's lived off nothing but McDonald's his whole life, Tristan Mainoff, the bishop of the Poland Church. And lastly, the third is Isidora Arkmama, the third queen of the kingdom. Ophelia gives her opinion on Tristan, suggesting that if he's the culprit, he might have used his devoted followers to tamper with the wards on Liselette's room. On the other hand, Liselette suspects her stepmother, the third queen, claiming that she has the freedom to wander the palace at any time and could have easily slipped in unnoticed. However, neither of them suspect General Sanova, since he has no magical abilities. But Ulysses disagrees, pointing out that Sanova has deep ties with the Thieves' Guild, a group known for gathering inside information. He could have used their help to mess with the wards, with no clear way to narrow down the culprit. Ophelia suggests they set a trap by creating a fake Atelier, a workshop that will be run by a fake Atelier Meister. As it turns out, Liselette has just turned 15, which, in this world, makes her an adult. By tradition, she must now leave the palace to train for a year. So, Ophelia plans to send her to this fake Atelier, and they'll make it public knowledge that she'll be training there. Eventually, the culprit will try to harm her again. But before they can make a move, they'll first need to gather information about the Atelier Meister. To prevent that, they need someone who essentially doesn't exist, someone nobody knows anything about. This way, the culprit will be forced to dig deep, trying again and again to learn about the Meister. In doing so, they'll inevitably leave traces behind, clues that Ophelia and the others can use to identify them. The only issue now is who should they choose to play the Atelier Meister. Ulysses already has the perfect guy in mind. She shows Ophelia the top-grade magic crystal that Kurt crafted, instantly making everyone realize that not only is he perfect for the role, but he's kinda overqualified as well. The next day, Kurt heads to Ophelia's workshop, only to find it closed for some reason. Michelle arrives shortly after and tells him that her master, Ophelia, along with the princess, went out yesterday. She advises Kurt to come back the next day. Kurt, being the insecure, confidence-lacking loser that he is, assumes he must have done something to make Ophelia shut down the shop. And while he's technically not wrong, the real reason isn't exactly what he's thinking. With nothing else to do, Kurt heads to a restaurant, where he overhears a group of adventurers discussing a dilemma they're stuck in. They've accepted a quest that requires a porter, which they don't have, and they can't cancel the quest because they don't have the money to pay the cancellation fees. Desperate for a job, Kurt approaches the group and offers to be their porter, warning them in advance that he's absolutely terrible at combat. Sina, the girl in the group, takes one look at this weak-looking brat and immediately turns him down, saying he's not fit to be a porter. But her older brother Cans, the heavy-geared guy, decides to give Kurt a chance and tells him more about the job. Apparently, they're planning to hunt iron golems monsters that weigh over 440 pounds. So yeah, they need someone with serious physical strength to carry that kind of load as a porter. Kurt claims he can handle that weight with no problem and, to prove it, casually lifts both Danzo the samurai and Kane the tank like they're bags of flour. Seriously? And this dude says he's bad at fighting? Bro can literally pick up monsters and yeet them into the sky. Anyway, his demonstration earns him applause from the restaurant crowd and the porter job. Soon after, the group sets out, and on the way, Kurt is formally introduced to everyone. Their kind and wholesome interactions catch him off guard in a good way. He's never been treated so warmly before, and it motivates him to give it everything he's got. They eventually reach the area where the iron golems reside. But before anything serious happens, Kurt steps on a slime, and his reaction? screaming like a toddler seeing their first horror movie. Cena tells him to stop overreacting and just stab the slime's core. But Kurt's aim, having lack of better words to describe it, is so shit that he stabs himself with the knife instead. This makes Cena realize that this guy isn't just bad at combat, he's terrible. She finishes off the slime for him, but surprisingly, she doesn't get mad. Neither does Danzo or Cans. Instead, they just grow more alert, clearly ready to protect him from danger. Kurt can't believe he didn't get scolded or smacked around for messing up. And slowly, he begins to realize that maybe his last party really were just awful people. Anyway, they head into the lair of the golems. Cena spreads luminous moss all around to light up the place. Kurt finds goblin poop nearby, which means the cave isn't just home to golems, there are goblins lurking too. Cans tells Kurt not to worry, saying they can handle a few goblins no problem. They go deeper into the cave, which starts looking more and more like a dungeon. Kurt notices something strange about the walls, but before he can investigate, a goblin shows up. Danzo instantly slices it down with samurai precision, but the sound draws a whole horde of goblins straight toward them. Cena realizes they don't stand a chance in a direct fight. Their best option is to run. But while they're panicking, Kurt, who had been inspecting the walls, finds a secret passage. He quickly informs the group, and he and Cena dash inside. Just as they get through, Cena shuts the door, leaving Cans and Danzo on the other side. The two had made their decision to stay behind to hold off the goblins so Kurt and Cena could escape. Cena keeps trying to find a way for them to leave, but she hears the voice of Danzo and Cans telling them that there are so many goblins there and there is no way they can escape trying to protect them. Cans screams that they should leave. There isn't a doubt that Kurt knows he is physically weak. However, he doesn't think he is a coward. He screams and says they should allow them to join the fight, but Cena looks at him ridiculously, reminding him he can't even fight a slime. What good will he do to the team if he stays with them than make them lose the fight? He feels discouraged. As a dummy who usually thinks low of himself, this indeed makes him feel lower. Well, it isn't like Cena isn't right. They just helped him kill a slime some minutes ago. He overhears Danzo and Cant saying that even if they die, they know they had died while protecting others. This gives him joy. I mean, someone thinks he is a friend, and they can die protecting him. He wonders why they think he is a friend, and he is happy. Cena tries to find a way out of the wall for them, and as she sprays her magic, it reveals 3 different iron dragon golem. She falls on her ass immediately. Does this mean this is where we will all die? While in the glimpse of death, Lyslot and Ulyssia are out there looking for him. Lyslot, on her part, is excited to see the man who gave her life back, and they enter the guild. They are shocked to find out that he has followed the Security team to fight. Ulyssia knows the particular mountain they have entered is going to be filled with several goblins, and there is little or no probability of survival for them. She tells Lyslot to stay back and let her go and find him, but Lyslot refuses. Why will she let go of an opportunity to be the savior of someone who saved her too? She rushes with Ulyssia to the mountain, even trying her best to look through the footsteps to find out where exactly he is in the mountain. When the steps on the rocks finish, she uses her long sense to figure out his scent on the mountain. This leaves Ulyssia with just one thought: for Lyslot to know his scent. Does that mean they have been close to themselves? I really won't say she is wrong. He saw her naked body. As the 2 girls search for them, Cena remains on the floor, giving her final words. Those kinds of statements you say when you know your death is imminent. She apologizes to Kurt for dragging him into the adventure, but Kurt wonders why she is that emotional. He tells her there is nothing too big there and they can just clear their way and leave. Clear which way? With the golems around. Without answering her, he jumps right into action. Using his skills, he hits the tail of the first golem. Then it is back, and wow, the golem is down. I can imagine the thoughts in Cena's mind right now. Isn't this the same boy I killed a slime for? With one dagger, he completely finishes them all. When Cena expresses her shock while sitting flat on the floor, he dismisses it, claiming it isn't a big achievement. He is only used to killing them because he minds them. Not only is this boy a fool, but it seems he lacks good self-esteem too. Well, despite being ignorant of himself, he is very self-aware of others. Amid Cena's shock, Ulyssia kicks the wall and enters. I am sure she hoped to be their savior, but how will she save someone that had saved himself? She looks in awe as Sina says all that has happened. Kurt comes out from the midst of the dead golems, holding Ulysses tight and begging her to save Danzo and Cans. He claims the only reason they are in that mess is that he is useless. If he is the definition of useless, then I may want to be useless too. Seeing all he has done, Ulysses remembers the myth she had heard about a particular S-rank adventurer. She wonders if this is the adventurer they had all he waiting for. Lyslot also comes there and her face lights up just by seeing him. They reassure him that Danzo and Cance are fine, and he doesn't have to worry. The entire team meets and Danzo and Cance appreciate Ulysses for coming to save them. Ulysses reveals her real intention. She intends to open a new atelier, and she wants Kurt to work with her. She knows that Kurt wouldn't believe he is that good and may want to reject the offer, so she quickly chips in that he was recommended by Ophelia. He feels great to accept, but he doesn't want to leave the new team he has joined. Kansa's scream brings him back to reality. Cance asks why he will leave such awesome opportunity to remain with them. Seeing that he feels familiar with the team, Ulysses offers the others an opportunity to join the atelier too. Before leaving, she tells Kurt that he hasn't measured his ability, and since he is to join the atelier, they have to measure his ability. While the Securitine leaves to celebrate their new appointment, Kurt meets Mimiko for his testing. Mimiko is excited to be the one to test him, and she expresses this. After the testing ends, Ulysses comes to ask for the result. To be honest, I am also excited to hear this result. And yes, it is exactly what everyone has been thinking. While the normal result shows he is B ranked in cooking, cleaning, and mining, and C rank in the other skills. The Hello World ranking, which shows S-rank adventurers, reveal his true rank. He is SSS-Rank in all the skills and powers. In fact, in his magic, he ranks higher than the Mimiko. Mimiko admits that if any other person hears his skills, he will be at risk. He may even be killed, so it is best they keep it from everyone. I don't think they have to be worried about that because even the dummy boy isn't aware of how strong he is. Regardless, Kershal overhears this great result and closes her ears tightly. It shouldn't be heard that she is aware of such deadly information. I am excited to see what the future holds Kurt. I hope he becomes self-aware one day. The group is on a high-speed carriage that Ulysses arranged using the Atelier Meister's special authority. They had the option to use teleportation stones, but according to Lyslot, the town they are heading to doesn't have any teleportation stones, as it is quite a remote, rural, borderside frontier town. According to Ulysses, this town was originally a military base to fend off demons who reside just over the border. So, this city is still crucial as the kingdom's frontal defense against the demons, and the group is heading there to be part of the atelier that has been newly constructed there. Kans still doesn't think he or any of his party members are worthy of working at this atelier, but Ulysses assures them that they are more than qualified for the job. Sina is awfully quiet and kind of upset, as she isn't really on the same page with her brother and Danzo, but she doesn't say anything since she doesn't want to part ways with her party. Anyway, Cans inquires about the Atelier Meister they're going to be working under, and his question leaves Ulysses flustered since the Atelier Meister is a fake. So she goes with a vague reply that answers nothing at all. Sina notices how weird Ulysses behaves whenever they try to bring up the topic of the Atelier Meister, and becomes wary of her, suspecting she's up to no good. Shortly after they arrive at the city, and looking at the city walls, Kurt realizes that this is the same town where he worked as a construction worker before getting fired for being too good at it. He notices how there hasn't been much progress since he was fired, but just assumes that the workers are using some other method that requires more time. Anyway, Ulysses brings the group over to the atelier's location, which is just an empty plot of land. Noticing the group is confused, Ulysses explains that the construction of the atelier will be completed soon, and until then, they will just have to stay at a local hotel. She doesn't want to waste everyone's time by hiring regular people to build the atelier and asks Kurt to do it, since he can build literally anything in under a day. Kurt, however, believes Ulysses is overestimating his abilities, stating that although he was able to build a log house, he can't build an atelier in such a short amount of time. Everyone is in support of Kurt, since normally it takes months to build proper houses from scratch. But they are all left stunned when Kurt claims he'll need only 3 days to build the atelier. Yulia tells Kurt not to feel pressured and promises him that she won't get mad or anything if he takes more than 3 days. She asks him to give her a list of extra materials he might need to build the atelier as he sees fit, and he quickly writes a bunch of items on a paper, including amethyst, sapphire, griffin feathers, everything that is crazy rare and expensive. However, Yulia agrees to get the items for him, putting her trust in him, while Sina just becomes more and more skeptical, wondering why Kurt would need such items to build a simple structure. Yulia notices how upset Sina looks, but doesn't confront her for now. She leads the rest of the group to the hotel, leaving Kurt there alone for construction work. After arriving at the hotel, she calls everyone for a meeting, but before she says anything, Sina speaks first, revealing to everyone that it was Kurt who defeated the Iron Dragons all by himself, effortlessly. So she demands to know from Yulia who Kurt is and what Yulia and Liselot are up to. Since explaining what Kurt is would take a long time, Yulia first introduces herself as an adventurer who once used to serve the royal family directly. She then reveals that Liselot is the third princess of this kingdom, leaving everyone with their mouths wide open. Liselot doesn't explain why she's hiding her identity from the public, but asks the group to keep this between themselves. Since both of them are quite the important people, Sina assumes that Kurt must also be of royalty, but that's far from the case. Although Kurt has said he's from a faraway village, Yulia has dug through every single file of this kingdom and still failed to find any information on him. The only thing she knows is that Kurt has 0 combat skills, while his non-combat skills are out of this world, with SSS rank in every single one. Yulia then tells the group something even more surprising. Kurt isn't even aware of the fact that he is this godly skilled, or skilled at all. So, they hid his true rank from him, giving him the false information that his skills are B rank at best. She also reveals that she intends to make Kurt the Atelier Meister, but has kept it a secret from him. Sina doesn't understand why Yulia is deceiving the kid like that, and believes Kurt should learn the truth. But Yulia is certain, even if she told Kurt the truth, he wouldn't believe her. She also wants to keep his skills a secret to protect him from those who might try to exploit or harm him upon realizing how naive he is. However, Sina believes that Yulia herself is exploiting Kurt's talents and begs her brother to take a stand for Kurt as well. Cons calms Sina down and continues listening to what Yulia and Liselotte have to say. Liselotte goes on to reveal her backstory about how Kurt lifted her curse just by cooking porridge for her. She also reveals that a certain group is after her life, and that's why they chose this rural town for the atelier, hoping they'd eventually catch the criminal behind the scenes. They believe Kurt is too pure-hearted and would help anyone without thinking twice, which is why they didn't want to burden him by telling him the truth. Because of all these reasons, Yulia wants to protect Kurt from the world and asks Kans, Danzo, and Sina to join forces in protecting him, while keeping everything a secret, of course. Danzo and Kans already consider Kurt their friend, so they agree, while Sina still has doubts since it's only been a day since she met Kurt. But when Yulia reveals that she took all this burden on herself, after only knowing Kurt for 6 days, Sina realizes the gravity of the situation and leaves, saying she needs some time to think. She goes back to the plot and becomes absolutely mortified upon finding that Kurt has already dug and prepared the foundation for the construction when it's only been an hour or so. Kurt doesn't think it's surprising, saying any B rank like him could do such a thing, when in reality, no B rank could ever manage that. Sina also learns that back in Kurt's hometown, everyone is much faster than him, which is why Kurt considers himself to be rather slow, leaving her completely baffled about where this guy is even from. Feeling guilty, Sina asks Kurt if it doesn't upset him that he has to work so much for others, and Kurt claims it actually makes him feel happy and important, now that his friends treasure him, telling her about the time he was considered useless and kicked out of his previous adventuring party. So he's glad he can now prove himself to be useful. His words make Sina realize that he truly is too pure for this world, and she finally understands why Ulycia wants to protect him. Just as the meeting finishes, Danzo goes to meet a strange woman. At first I am scared, wondering if he is thinking of betraying the team that fast, but my fear is relaxed now. He is actually meeting an informant to know who had messed up their last adventure. He knows there is no way they would be sent to such a dungeon with several monsters, and something must have gone wrong. Well, his suspicions are right. The informant informs him that a man named Bibinoke, who has also been nicknamed the Man with 1,000 Faces, was the one. As a business, the man takes crazy adventures and lists them, even going as far as convincing adventurers to take the quests. He targets groups that he has been paid to destroy, and this time, someone must have paid him to destroy the Sakura group, which was why he listed the adventure. Danzo appreciates the informant and pays her. While Bibinoka's thoughts that they would die didn't come true, Danzo is angry someone could think of doing that to him, so he immediately considers revenge. To be fair, Bibinoka deserves it too. On the other hand, is Bibinoka. He is at the bar trying to flirt with a lady who isn't giving him any attention. I doubt he looks good enough to attract a woman, so I don't blame her. He sits down, angry that the only reason he is broke at the moment is because the Sakura group didn't die in the dungeon. He doesn't know how they survived, and he has even been informed that they are now working under the princess. Every part of their success makes him angry, but he is encouraged by one thing: the fact that bringing them down while they are working for the princess will be more fun. Unknown to him, Danzo is right behind him. Danzo comments and asks if he is that excited about the reality of bringing the group down, and he smiles. When he turns and sees Danzo, he is shocked. He jumps and starts running. As he runs, the informant uses a string to trip him. He falls down, and Danzo gets to him. He tries to beg Danzo, claiming he is a friend and wouldn't jeopardize him. If what he did to them the last time wasn't jeopardy, then I want to know the meaning of jeopardy. Anyway, Danzo doesn't care about him. He brings out his sword and puts it on his neck. Even before Danzo strikes, the man has frozen on the floor. I won't doubt if he is about to pee on himself. Danzo warns him that he doesn't see him as a friend, but the next time he tries to attack his friends, he will strike that sword. Danzo walks away, but this cowardly man remains on the floor. I think the worst set of villains are the ones who cannot take what they dish out. The informant wishes Danzo had killed Bibinoke. That way, he would have taken her hindrance from her. She signals to two men to carry Bibinoka away. What she wants to do with him is what I do not know. She also sees a message from her boss through a bird. Suddenly, she decides she has to visit Kurt's village. A strange woman who looks frozen is also shown. We do not know who she is yet, but as the story unfolds, we will certainly find out. The group returns to the atelier that Kurt was building, and what they see shocks the hell out of them. You mean that empty land that was there 3 days ago has become this mansion? I have never seen a tree that was planted 3 days ago bear fruit. Every tree, plant, and fruit that Kurt planted are bearing fruits, and everyone there is jaw-dropped. I am jaw-dropped too. Liselot excitedly says that will be her mansion with Kurt, but Ulycia immediately reminds her it is an atelier and not her house. They enter the mansion, and Kurt welcomes them. He apologizes for not making plans to welcome them well, and Ulycia sarcastically replies that they also didn't make plans to see what they had seen upon their arrival. He takes them around the house, and seeing every compartment in the house, they are shocked. He takes them to the water supply that he had created by using a sapphire to ensure they do not lack water. Ulycia, despite how strong she is, does not know how that could be done. So she asks, and he explains how he had done it. He reassures them that even with constant usage, they will never lack those resources for a year. He takes them to their room, and Liselota jumps on the bed immediately. He reveals the bed was made from griffin feathers, but Liselota claims it smells like him, and the others control her. He takes them to the last part of the house, which is the atelier master's office. He asks Ulycia when the atelier master will be joining them, but she doesn't want to reveal he is the master, so she tells him the master is coming. When they ask about his room, he claims since he is just a cleaner, he will be using the kitchen to rest when he needs a break. Wow, this boy is really clueless. They scream at him, asking him to please use the atelier master's room, pending the time the atelier master will return. He doesn't accept, and for 2 good hours, they all keep persuading him. When he eventually accepts to stay there for the short time, they are all exhausted from begging. Ulysses recalls that Liselotte remains a threat to curses. She asks if he could put magic to ward off curses around the house, but he doesn't have that power. Fortunately, she has some talismans that were given to her by Mimiko, so that night she goes around the house to put them up. She decides to put a lot beside Liselotte's room to safeguard her. When she does that, Liselotte assumes it is her dream man sneaking around her room. She comes out excitedly, but is disappointed to see it is Ulysses. Ulysses is also disappointed that Liselotte is thinking of such a thing. Okay, it is a battle of disappointment. The next day, Liselotte dresses seductively and meets Kurt in the kitchen, holding plates to help him with his meal. When Ulysses enters, she is disappointed again. I think she will be disappointed a lot of times. The others wake up and they smell freshly baked bread. Kurt has made an oven in the house to serve them bread and tea every day. He makes breakfast for them, and as they savor each bite of the meal, they are amazed. However, isn't at the table. Ulysses finds out he is out cleaning all the talismans that she had placed on the wall. She runs there to stop him, but he has cleaned everything except one, which he is presently cleaning. She is amazed because Mimiko had said the talismans can't be cleaned. Now she also has to explain to Kurt how the talismans got there. She lies that it is the work of scrawlers, and our dummy main character believes her. The problem she has now is how to protect Liselotte from curses until Mimiko arrives, which will be in a few days. Will Kurt's presence protect our poor princess? On the other side, Tristan, the bishop who eats pizza for breakfast, expels Marlefis from the Poland church, giving the reason that her adventuring party has suffered too many failures and caused too much violence. To make matters worse, the party leader Golnova has now become a criminal, and Tristan cannot allow someone tied to such an infamous group to remain part of the Poland church. Marlefis desperately pleads with Tristan, admitting that she did unleash lightning magic in a restaurant, but argues that she only did it to punish the owners for serving bad food. Clearly, this woman has no idea just how much of a Karen she has become, and Tristan himself has completely run out of patience with her nonsense. However, since Marlefis has been a powerful mage and a valuable asset to the church, Tristan offers her one last chance to return, giving her a simple condition. If she succeeds in completing a task for him, he promises to grant her the rank of priest. He pours a glass of wine from the enemy empire that opposes Poland and asks Marlefis to drink it, trusting him she does. And Tristan smiles like a devil, flashing all 32 of his gold teeth. After finishing the wine, Marlefis agrees to the task, and in a voice dripping with malice, Tristan orders her to assist the church in the assassination of the third princess, Liselotte. Marlefis is horrified. She has no desire to be involved in such a vile and treasonous act, but it is already too late. The wine she drank was cursed, the same curse that once ate away at Liselotte's life until Kurt saved her with his magical stew. Dropping to her knees in agony, Marlefis listens as Tristan reveals the truth. She is now cursed. Her body will reject everything but water, and within a month, she will die from starvation. Only Tristan holds the power to lift the curse, and he makes it clear, if she wants to live, she must obey. Feeling utterly betrayed and trapped, Marlefis is forced to accept his demands, and she is the same figure we saw earlier, unconscious inside the magic circle, lying helplessly before the demon lord. A chilling hint that Tristan might be a demon or the demon lord himself. Back at the atelier, Ulysses wonders why the enemy has stopped pursuing Liselotte or attempting to curse her again. She suspects that either the enemy has not yet found their location, or they did try, but failed because Kurt's cooking has been continuously neutralizing the curse. With that question settled, she shifts her focus to her next concern, Mimiko, who has already reached the city alongside Ophelia and is currently busy setting multiple traps to track down the enemy. As Kurt serves food, he casually mentions that Liselotte no longer needs to fear being cursed anymore, revealing that the entire mansion now acts as a giant barrier that reflects curses back to the caster. However, since Kurt does not wish to harm anyone, instead of rebounding the curse violently, the spell simply causes the attacker to glow. The moment Kurt finishes explaining, an enemy lurking in the shadows tries to unleash his most powerful curse on Lieselot, but instantly ends up glowing like a Temu LED light. Ulicia heads out to relay this new information to Mimiko, and in the meantime, Kurt proposes to Lieselot that they should also head out to do some shopping and enjoy the town a little. But it is not because Kurt needs to buy clothes or anything. It is simply because he has noticed that ever since Lieselot came here, she has never set foot outside, and he wants her to have some fun for once. Even though Lieselot truly wants to go with Kurt, she refuses his offer, but does not explain to him that it is because it would not be safe for her to go outside. Meanwhile, at the city walls, General Alraid feels a heavy sense of unease as he watches a thick miasma slowly creeping toward their town. He suspects a monster assault is imminent and shares his concerns with his subordinate Generic, who tries to reassure him by saying that their walls are much stronger and higher this time. On the other hand, Mimiko, Ophelia, and Ulicia track down the evil mage who had tried to curse Lieselot earlier, but unfortunately for them, they cannot get any information out of him, as he has already been unalived by his own allies. Ophelia seems more fascinated by Kurt's abilities though, since the dead mage is still glowing brightly even now. This makes her think that if someone as powerful as Kurt joins their mission, they could find the enemy within a single day. However, Ulicia still does not want to drag Kurt into this dangerous mess, so they decide to handle it themselves. Mimiko steps up to investigate the area nearby, strictly instructing Ulicia not to let Lieselot leave the mansion at any cost, as they now know the enemy has already set foot in the town. At that moment, the emergency bell rings loudly across the city, and Generic and Alraid learn from a subordinate that there has been a monster assault. The magic squad quickly illuminates the land outside the city walls, revealing a terrifying sight. Several thousand undead skeletons are approaching the town. Mimiko learns of this as well, using her spatial detection magic, and she immediately suspects that the mastermind behind this monster assault must be targeting Lieselot. Without wasting any time, Alraid steps up to defend the city from the front line and orders Generic to evacuate the citizens immediately. Generic wants to fight alongside Alraid, believing that their chances of survival will be higher if they all stand together against the skeletons. But before they can even get into position, the skeletons suddenly begin walking straight into the walls and disappearing into nothingness. Mimiko gets this strange report from her phantom subordinates and mentions it to Ulicia, who instantly recalls that it was Kurt who had repaired the north and west walls all by himself months ago. And perhaps one of his cheat skills is causing this bizarre phenomenon. Either way, it is great news, and even Alraid starts to suspect that the boy who fixed the walls back then is the real reason behind this mysterious turn of events. On the other side, it is revealed that Marlefis is the one summoning the undead, and she has already drained all of her mana. But the demon she is bound to is not pleased with her yet, and forces her to keep summoning more undead by using the last remnants of her magical power. Marlefis cannot believe this is how her life is going to end. She reveals that Tristan made a pact with an advanced demon just to assassinate the princess, and now that very demon is torturing her, forcing her to endlessly summon undead deep within the ruins of the forest near the frontier town. After summoning only 2 or 3 skeletons, Marlefis completely depletes her mana, but the demon is still not satisfied. It ruthlessly forces her to start using her life force as fuel to keep summoning even more skeletons. Seeing how the war in the city is getting, Ulicia sees the need to ensure Lisa is fine. She returns to the atelier to check up on Kurt and Lisa. She tells them what she has heard about the attack in the city and reveals that the monsters keep disappearing once they touch the wall. She assumes it is something very shocking, and even the knights were shocked. Guess who isn't shocked about it? Yes, your guess is as true as mine, Kurt. He reveals it is a very common thing in his city, and it is sincerely not a big deal. Thinking about what he said, Ulicia gets the perfect plan that will safeguard her city. She remembers all the crystal stones that Kurt had gotten earlier and realizes she could use them to divert the monsters from their source. She tells Kurt to remain in the atelier with Lise. When they ask her what she wants to do, she says she wants to destroy the source through the ruins. Our ever-strong main character offers to follow her, but she refuses and asks him to remain with Lisa. He assumes that it is because he is very weak. I need someone to whisper to this man that he isn't weak. He tells her to leave so he won't die with her when he follows her. Trying to encourage him that she isn't leaving him because he is weak, she whispers to him and reminds him of the scrawlers that are around to attack Lisa. So she tells him she needs him to remain and protect her. His face lights up again. He is glad he isn't useless. She immediately runs out of there so she can find the crystal stones. She sees the stones and goes to the night office. She has a familiar relationship with General Alraid, so he recognizes her immediately. After exchanging pleasantries with her, she introduces Mimiko and Lady Ophelia. Knowing who Ophelia is, Alraid figures the princess is in their city. He offers to direct some of his knights to protect Lisa, if only he knew that his knights aren't as strong as the person protecting Lisa at the moment. Ulysses refuses his offer and goes to her business of the day. She informs him she needs him to create a decoy by the gate against the monsters, while she goes to the ruins and destroys the core of the monsters alone. While the plan seems great, Alraid doesn't believe her. With what weapon does she intend to destroy the ruins? And with which army? All these questions beg for answers, and she shows him the stone she is with. This screams impossible. "Oh no," he screams, "I can't make you do that and kill yourself." However, she insists it will work, and he should just do his part. He refuses to let her go alone, so he offers to join her, while his assistant, Generic, remains with the decoy thing. When Generic refuses to stay back, he convinces him otherwise, and they continue the plan. The girls leave, so Generic brings him a cup of drink as their final drink. As a rite, they are to take the drink and break the cup. But no, they believe they won't die in the battle, so they pour the water away in hopes of drinking a better one when they return alive. Will they actually return? At the atelier, Kurt feels useless. Everyone is fighting and working, and he is just there. He decides to make a sword for himself after remembering the words of an older man in his village that a stone is a reflection of oneself. He recalls Danzo's blade is sharp, so he tries to replicate it. At the gate of the ruins, Ulysses holds the stone, praying and hoping that it works. She asks everyone around to cover their eyes, and she throws it. With just a hit, all the monsters disappear. Even Alraid is shocked. Is this a secret weapon of the atelier? He asks. Well, it is Kurt's personal weapon. They immediately climb their horses to fight the remaining monsters in the ruins. On the other hand, Kurt takes the blade he holds, and to him, the blade looks useless. He can't imagine he made something that stupid. He feels it is a D- or even an F-ranked blade. As he looks at his failure with disbelief, Lise comes in. When she sees it is very nice. It looks so good, and when she even hears it can use magic, she is more interested. He asks if she wants it, and she happily accepts it. Her face turns red as she smiles at him, happily. However, he feels her smile is fake. He knows something is going wrong with her, and she is scared. He decides to go straight and ask her, and he is right. She reveals someone wants to kill her, and she is the reason both him and Ulysses are restless. He bows in sadness. He doesn't hate the fact that he is protecting her. He is just unhappy that he can't save her. He recalls that Golnova was scrawling at the ruins in the west, so he assumes Ulysses is really after the scrawlers in the ruins. He looks at her in sadness that he can't save someone special to him. She doesn't even know she is special to him. She is happy. However, he bursts her bubble when he tells her she isn't the only one special to him, as everyone in the Sakura clan is special. Taking her loss, she admits she also feels hopeless because she is useless. Since they are both equal at being useless, he suggests they make a way to make themselves useful. He tells her they should go to the ruins in the west. There are monsters around the 8 ways in the city, and she tells him this, but he says they have to bathe a way for themselves. He can even imagine a way out of no way. Wow! Meanwhile, at the ruins, Ulysses withdraws because she feels Something bad is about to happen. Will something bad happen with Kurt's arrival at the ruins, or will he save them? Lieselot is getting ready when Kurt's blade catches her attention, making her recall what Kurt told her earlier. Apparently, if she holds the blade over her head, a spell will activate. She wonders what kind of spell this tiny blade is going to cast, and decides to find out for herself. Curiously, she draws the sword and lifts it up, but to her surprise, nothing happens. At that moment, Kurt, speaking from another room, tells her they should head out now. As she turns around, she's left shocked to see someone has sneaked up behind her. On the other side, the battle against the undead is getting out of hand. Desperate, Yulichia asks Alraid if they're any closer to the ruins, and Alraid assures her that if they keep taking down the undead, they'll soon reach their destination. Yulichia is already overwhelmed. This fight is draining her energy too much, and she can barely stay on her feet. But she feels fortunate and thankful to Generic, because his diversionary force has pulled a large number of undead toward them. If it weren't for Generic, Yulichia and Alraid would have already been overwhelmed by sheer numbers. However, Generic's army can't hold on for long, and Yulichia knows it too. Realizing that Generic's team will soon run out of the magic crystals they've been using to fend off the undead. Yulichia herself only has a few crystals left in her inventory, and the only way to win here is to quickly locate the source, spawning these undead. Out of nowhere, Alraid takes a hit to the gut, but Yulichia can't cover him as dozens of undead bats swarm around her. Kans, Danzo, and Sina come to their rescue, introducing themselves to Alraid as adventurers currently working for the Atelier, while Kans and Danzo support Yulichia and Alraid with their combat skills. Sina uses her navigation ability to locate the spawner, informing everyone that the undead are coming from the ruins just up ahead. With this sudden glimmer of hope, Yulichia uses the last of her magic crystals to eliminate the remaining undead in the area, and then heads toward the ruins with the group. She hands Alraid a bottle of soup made by Kurt, and upon drinking it, Alraid's wounds are instantly healed. Maybe they shouldn't have wasted such a cheat item this early, because seconds later, another wave of undead bursts out from the ruins gate. This time, Kans and Danzo bravely step up to fight the goblins themselves, and the others follow their lead, marching into battle once again. After dealing with the undead, they head inside the ruins, swiftly cutting down any monsters that get in their way. Meanwhile, Marlefis has lost all hope of surviving. She knows that if the Demon Lord keeps draining her life force like this, she won't ever see the light again. But what can she do? She's so powerless that she can't even speak for herself in front of this terrifying Demon Lord. The Demon Lord laughs, entertained by her suffering, but his smile fades when he discovers through his surveillance magic that the humans are using a special kind of magic crystal that annihilates all undead within its radius. He also sees Yulichia's group approaching and is impressed to see that the humans have put up such a strong fight. He remarks how bored he was, idling here for hours, so he decides to go and face Yulichia's group himself, hoping to find some entertainment in them. Yulichia's group enters a hallway where skeletons begin emerging from the ground. Suspecting this is the spawner, they immediately use a magic crystal, subjugating the skeletons. But the real battle is just beginning, as the Demon Lord appears before them at that very moment, smirking menacingly. At one glance, Yulichia recognizes this monster as a Demon Lord. Hiding her fear beneath a cocky smile, she tells Alraid that they just need to beat this guy to put an end to the undead once and for all. Yulichia dashes forward to land the first strike, using Kurt's magic stone right in the face of the Demon Lord. But the Demon Lord emerges completely unscathed, calmly stating that the only reason he didn't take any real damage is because he has infinite lives. Yulichia thinks he's bluffing, and so does Alraid, who immediately slashes at the demon with his sword. To prove he's not lying, the Demon Lord doesn't even try to dodge, taking the hit head on and getting stabbed straight through the gut. But his wound instantly heals, making them both realize that he truly is invincible. What's actually happening, however, is that this demon is secretly draining Marlefis's life force to regenerate his power and energy. The Demon Lord shows Ulysses and Alraid how their companions are doing outside, stating that all of their efforts will be in vain, as he can keep generating undead endlessly. Taking things even further, he summons 2 colossal undead giants, claiming they're strong enough to destroy the city gate, and menacingly predicts that the giants will soon trample the adventurer team stationed at the entrance. His provocations push Ulysses and Alraid to their limit, and without hesitation, they attack him. Ulysses stabs him through the demon's heart, and Alraid decapitates him in a perfectly timed assault. But it's all for nothing. The Demon Lord casually picks up his severed head and places it back on his shoulders, and with a twisted grin, he declares that he'll soon drag Liselot out of town and tear her apart right in front of them, just to watch their faces crumble in despair. Marlefis knows that the only way for her to survive is by erasing the magic circle she's trapped in, but she no longer has the strength to do anything. Weak and helpless, she expresses how hungry she is and begs the gods to let her taste Kurt's home cooking one last time before taking her soul. At that moment, she hears Kurt's voice, assuming it's just a hallucination in the final moments before her death. But when she looks up, the ground begins to crack open, and to her disbelief, Kurt and Liselot appear, revealing that they dug their way here underground to avoid the undead. Kurt is surprised to see Marlefis, but she doesn't say anything to him. Seeing Princess Liselot with him, Marlefis assumes Kurt has already figured out that she was involved in the assassination attempt on Liselot, and that he's come here to talk her out of doing something so evil. Liselot asks Kurt if he knows Marlefis, and Kurt explains their shared past in the same adventuring party, introducing her as the sister from the church. Marlefis immediately corrects him, saying she's been excommunicated and is no longer a sister. Kurt, finally using some brain cells, realizes that Marlefis is after Liselot's life, but then runs out of brain cells just as fast, concluding that Marlefis is trying to harm Liselot out of frustration for being kicked out of the church. He couldn't be more naive, and Marlefis doesn't even bother explaining the real situation she's stuck in. Liselot, on the other hand, quickly pieces things together and realizes that Bishop Tristan is the true mastermind behind everything. Kurt still acts like it's not that big of a deal, scolding Marlefis like an older brother with zero anger in his tone, simply telling her that she shouldn't have tried to harm Liselot. Either way, he asks where Ulysses is, confused why she hasn't shown up yet, since he assumed she would have reached here before him. Marlefis tells him that Ulysses is on the floor above, conveniently leaving out the part where she's currently fighting a demon lord. Liselot volunteers to go find Ulysses, asking Kurt to break the magic circle, assuring him she'll be fine, and showing him the slightly suspicious but powerful blade he made for her. Marlefis stays silent, internally questioning how stupid Kurt can be to let Liselot go alone to the floor where the demon lord is waiting. Kurt, meanwhile, pulls out a mop and a bucket from God knows where and literally starts scrubbing away the magic circle like he's cleaning the floor of a tavern, leaving Marlefis completely stunned, just as Kurt mindlessly cleans the spells. It is as if the demon lord also realizes that his magic is running out. When Ulysses makes the next attempt at him, he immediately dodges the attack. They notice something is wrong because he hadn't dodged any of their other attempts. He also figures that his magic stream is running out, and that if he isn't careful, he may die. He wonders what could have happened, and if the spell was really cleaned off. He doesn't know that our ignorant main character is now in the story. Now he knows that he can no longer play around, and has to ensure they don't use the magic crystal. Before Ulysses and Alraid can try attacking him a second time, Lisa appears. To the Demon Lord, that simply means his work is done. The entire reason he is attacking the city is to kill the princess, and if she has come there by herself, then he need not stress himself further. He immediately attacks her, and she falls. Ulysses' world crumbles. She is shocked. She can't believe the young lady they had kept in her care is dead. To their shock, butterflies surround Lisa's corpse, and she appears behind the Demon Lord. She laughs at him, informing him that what he had killed is just an illusion. The magic Kurt said was inside that sword was an illusion spell. It looks just like the real person, and even the body temperature is the same. The Demon Lord is shocked. He couldn't have imagined what he had just experienced. He attacks her a second time, but butterflies perch on her corpse, and she appears again. This time she appears right beside the crystal that they need to break, and she breaks it with her sword. The demon lord disappears, and if the person that had cast the magic has disappeared, then all the monsters will disappear too. All the monsters in the city vanish. Everyone is happy. Marlefis realizes the demons have gone, and she is shocked that the team successfully destroyed the demon lord. It takes Yulisha more than a second to return to reality. She is beyond shocked. She goes to meet Lisa, asking her why she had left the hiding place they had kept her in. She admits that she had done wrong and apologizes. Everyone has been fighting and going through a lot because of her, so she couldn't remain at that place doing nothing. Yulisha begs her to stop apologizing. She was the one who had saved the city, and they are the ones who should appreciate her. Alraid falls on his knees in appreciation. She promises to reward everyone who had done their best for her survival, but Alraid refuses any gift. When she insists on gifting him, he asks her for liquor for his team. What a drunkard. Meanwhile, Marlefis feels a severe stomach upset. She realizes that the curse placed on her hasn't gone despite the fact that the magic spell had been removed. She believes that she will die and in fact thinks she deserves it. Kurt comes to serve her food. She assumes that when she eats the meal, she will vomit it, but she won't let go of an opportunity to eat Kurt's food before she dies, so she accepts. What she doesn't know is that Kurt isn't the little boy they had underestimated in their team. In fact, they didn't know he was the one who had safeguarded the entire team all the way. She eats the meal and suddenly, the poison in her stomach dissolves. She starts tearing up. She realizes that every time they were wounded in battle, their bodies healed up first. What they thought was pure luck was actually Kurt taking care of them. Because his power wasn't to fight in battles, they had felt he was weak. And now, she can see she made a mistake, a costly one at that. She apologizes to Kurt with tears in her eyes, but stupid Kurt assumes she is apologizing for putting scrawlers in Lisa's room. Lisa and Yulisha arrive, and they also come with 2 guards. The guards come to arrest Marlefis, and Kurt screams that she should be let go. Not like he cares, though. He is of the opinion that anyone who does wrong should be punished. So when Marlefis wonders if he is actually begging for her release, he says no, and says that he would instead bring her food in the prison. He goes to meet Lisa to be sure she is fine. She reassures him that she is fine, and Yulisha looks at them, smiling to herself. She can't imagine that those 2 kids are actually the ones who had saved her life that day. She concludes that they are indeed a great atelier master and a great princess. She goes to meet them and asks that they return to the atelier. They hold his hands together and he can't help but imagine how lucky he is. They laugh, wondering if he is happy that 2 beautiful girls are holding his hands. That is actually not what is making him happy. He is happy because, for the first time in his life, he has friends who care for him. He has a home to himself, and he no longer feels as if he is useless. That is something he had craved all his life, and it is finally becoming a reality. He looks at his atelier and concludes that, for the first time, he is happy. He makes meals for the knights to feast on that night. However, when they are eating, they do not seem excited. They all eat quietly. He assumes the reason they are eating quietly is because his food isn't good, and they are not happy with him. You know Kurt, whenever he is sad, his expression shows it all. Alraid notices that expression and comes to meet him. He reveals that they are all enjoying the food, which is why they are eating quietly. This comment makes Kurt very happy. Lisa comes there to introduce Alraid to him as the knight of the city. He tells Alraid how much he is enjoying the city and how well Alraid has led the city. Alraid compliments Kurt's food, saying that since he ate the meal, his injuries have been healing. Instead of taking the compliment, Kurt replies that it is a common effect of eating good food. What? Common? That is not common to the other people there, but you can conclude that what is ordinary to Kurt is indeed extraordinary to others. As they talk, fireworks light up the sky. Kurt had prepared them as a celebration for the great night, and everyone is happy to watch. While their night ends happily, Tristan goes to meet Margrave again. What they are scheming now is unknown, but I am sure that with Kurt as the atelier master, they will end up blaming themselves again. We get to see a flashback to Kurt's childhood days, living at his mysterious home called the Hast village. He approaches Hildegard, a girl with a demon, who is minding her own business, and asks her if she is the traveling merchant's daughter. Hilda ignores Kurt initially, but as he keeps on bugging her, putting in his best efforts to have a conversation, even going as far as crying, she finally speaks, stating that her father has forbidden her from talking to the people of this village. Apparently, Hilda's father thinks the villagers here are a little strange, and if Hilda interacts with them, he fears that she will be influenced by their strangeness. In any case, Hilda makes it clear to Kurt that she is talking to herself, and Kurt, playing along, also states that he too is talking to himself. They introduce themselves to each other this way, and quickly become friends. Not soon after, Kurt takes Hilda to show her some rainbow-colored flowers in the mountains on his pet iron golem. And on their way, Hilda finds some berries, which she unsuspectingly decides to eat. The berries turn out to be highly poisonous, but fortunately for her, Kurt, even at this young age, has the knowledge to make the antidote. Thinking quickly, he collects some herbs, turns them into a paste, and then puts it in his own mouth before sharing the antidote with Hilda in a rather awkward fashion. The flashback ends here, and it's revealed that Kurt's been watching this decade-old childhood memory in his dream while riding in a carriage with Ulycia and the adventurer group. They are heading to a village that has asked for their help, and once they reach the destination, they learn about the problem from the village chief, who informs them about the sudden drought that has left their river dry. Because of the sudden water shortage, the crops are dying, but Ulycia doesn't think there's any need to worry. Noticing on the map that there's a large reservoir in the nearby village, she looks at the details, seeing that the reservoir's waterway connects to this village as well. But the problem, according to the village chief, is that the neighboring village head doesn't want to share the water with, despite several attempts to negotiate a deal. And that is exactly why the village chief has sought aid from the powerful authority that he believes the atelier holds, hoping that using their prowess, they'll be able to convince the neighboring village to share their water. After learning about the situation from the village chief, Ulycia returns to the group's location, only to find Danzo, who informs her that the others have already gone up the hill. Apparently, an old man in charge of the birds has a strained back, so they have requested Kurt, the atelier meister, to help him. Ulycia thinks Kurt can handle it himself, so without wasting any time, she gets on her horse to leave for the neighboring village to convince them to share their reservoir's water. But when she arrives and reveals her identity to the village chief, she gets on her knees, begging her to save them, revealing that the reservoir has run out of water. Ulycia doesn't understand what's going on, and she can only pray that God bestows them with some rain. At that moment, two villagers frantically tell the village chief about something happening on the top of the hill, but they aren't able to express what they saw with words. Ulycia quickly heads to the location, finding Cons and Sina staring in wonder at a large lake. Ulycia doesn't understand. If there was such a large lake here, why would the villagers claim there's a shortage of water? Sina doesn't know how to explain what happened here, so she just tells Ulycia that this lake wasn't here until moments ago. When Kurt comes running innocently in their direction, Ulycia gets an idea of what probably happened. She asks Kurt why he's here instead of fixing the old man's back, and Kurt explains that he apparently saw the old man's birds being extremely thirsty, so he came here and extracted water from an aquifer, an undiscovered rock that contained this massive body of water. Both village chiefs arrive shortly after and get on their knees, thanking Ulycia for saving their lives. Kurt, the brain, dead, also stares in awe at Ulycia, thinking she solved their problem in a matter of minutes, completely unaware that knowing he was the one who unintentionally resolved the crisis. With the job done, the group is now on their way back, and they've received several bird eggs as a thank you gift. Kurt shares his plan to use the eggs to make some delicious food later today, like omelets, pancakes, and maybe even desserts. He asks about Lys, and Ulycia tells him that Lys has gone to see the Lord of Tychone to deliver a report on the undead assault. The scene shifts, and we see Lys and Alraid having a conversation with Mangrave Tychone over dinner. Apparently, Mr. Eyebags here holds authority equivalent to that of a duke, and to further consolidate his influence, he is trying to win Lys over. Lys sees through Mangrave's schemes, but keeps a smile on her face, since she's here as a representative of the atelier, not as the princess of this kingdom. Mangrave tries to extract information about the atelier meister, knowing He was the one who saved the town from the undead monster attack. But Lise carefully dodges his questions to prevent Kurt from becoming a political pawn. As the conversation deepens, Mangrave shifts the topic to the town where the atelier is based, pointing out that it is still unnamed. Lise states that for a town to be officially named, the kingdom must first appoint a viceroy. Mangrave has the authority to appoint viceroys within his domain, and he slyly reveals his intention to name the Atelier Meister as the town's viceroy. Lise immediately recognizes his real intention to put Kurt under his direct jurisdiction. However, since Kurt himself doesn't even know he's the Atelier Meister yet, Lise cannot allow this to happen. So she tells Mangrave that such an important matter cannot be decided by her alone. Mangrave finds Lisa's response suspicious, especially given that she is both the princess and the official representative of the atelier. He points out that he expected her to hold at least some authority, if not full authority, over decisions like this, and Lise is completely caught off guard. She hesitates to say anything in reply and becomes more nervous when Mangrave turns to speak with Alraid. Mangrave asks Alraid, who is the general of the town's knights, if he has any objections to appoint the Atelier Meister as viceroy, and Lise can only hope he'll say no, revealing Alraid doesn't know about Kurt's situation. Alraid, being completely unaware, immediately accepts the proposal. So, Lise jumps in again with yet another objection. This prompts Mangrave to question whether there's some hidden flaw or incompetence in the Atelier Meister that makes him unfit for the role. The comment offends Lise, and she, unable to hold back, proudly states that there is no one more talented in the entire nation than the Atelier Meister. She makes the mistake of praising Kurt too much, giving Mangrave all the confirmation he needs. With a smirk, he declares that the Atelier Meister will definitely be appointed as the viceroy. Lieselotte returns to the atelier with crazy news. News that messes everyone up. Ulicia is concerned that they may have to show Kurt to everyone as the atelier master, which would be impossible because he also doesn't know he is the atelier master. She suggests that they find someone else to pretend to be the atelier master so they can get the matter over and done with. But that wouldn't be the case, because all the knights have met Kurt and they know his real identity. So who will believe them when they bring a replacement that isn't even as good or as strong as he is? Lieselotte accepts Ulicia's suggestion at first, but when she considers that choosing someone else to pretend to be him will be them replacing her lover, she screams and shouts that she wouldn't allow it. There is no one else who can be like Kurt in that city. In fact, in that world. She asks where Kurt is, and Ulicia jokingly tells her he is child-rearing. Wait, does this mean her lover has a child that isn't her own? If there is a person with a high level of delusions in this city, it will be Lieselotte. She screams that even if he has a child that isn't her child, she will adopt the child and train it. That is an overreach, but she knows too well she is a princess, and she has the power to do all she wants. Ulicia is just teasing her. Kurt doesn't have a child, but he is busy rearing the egg that they have gotten from the city they visited, as the egg will soon hatch. Knowing that Kurt doesn't do something that is small or little, Ulicia is concerned. What exactly will this egg be eventually? Her concern turns out to be valid as Kurt screams their names, telling them that the egg has hatched. Elsewhere, Mimiko is tired of dealing with the several reports on her table. She complains about this to Lady Ophelia, who tells her she looks like her mask is about to fall off. Talking about the work on her table, Ophelia tells her that Bishop Tristan has been killed and his body was found. She suggests that he was killed by the Poland Church, who wanted someone to take the punishment for the failed act of summoning the demon lord. She asks Mimiko what she wants to do to Marla Fils if she wants to kill her. While Mimiko would hope to kill her, she knows that Kurt had told Marla Fils that she will visit her at the prison, so killing her may anger Kurt. Good for Marla Fils. At least the relationship she didn't value some months ago is the one thing keeping her alive now. Speaking of Kurt, Mimiko gets a letter that wows her. The egg that Kurt had hatched turns out to be a female child. Now, I need to ask Ulicia what my future will be like, because she was the first person that prophesied that Kurt was rearing a child. Her joke prophecy had come into reality, and she is too shocked to think about it. She calls a meeting with everyone, and this young child sits on Kurt's lap, touching his cheek and calling him Papa. Despite the fact that the kid was just hatched, she looks like a 3-year-old child. Yulisha reminds Kurt that it is impossible for a child to come from an egg and tells him that the child is a monster. Unfortunately, she needs him to give her that child. When he asks what she will do to it, she tells him she will kill the child. He refuses to let go. He doesn't believe that innocent child can kill them all. She drags the child away from him, but he begs that he will take responsibility for the baby. She refuses to allow him. However, the child looks at her and touches her cheek, calling her Mama. She melts immediately, imagining her future with Kurt, with the child as their first daughter. As if she, Liselotte, knows what she is thinking, she brings her back into reality and tells her the girl isn't her child with Kurt. She insists she isn't thinking that the child is hers, and Liselotte drags away the child from her hand. When the girl gets to her hand, the girl touches her cheek and calls her Mama too. She melts, she drops the child, and Sina picks her up. The girl calls Sina Sis. As Sina is about to bask in the new title that she has gotten, Liselotte comes there wanting to be called Mama the second time. Kans also tells Yulisha that there is no reason they are killing the child, as he thinks if they train the child well, even if she is evil, they can turn her to something good. Yulisha has no choice but to accept. Liselotte wonders what name they should give the baby. She suggests that since the baby called her Mama, she can name the child from both her and Kurt's name, so she goes for the name Kururi. Yulisha refuses to accept. The child called her Mama too, so she considers naming her Yukuri. They start arguing and fighting so much that their noise wakes up this strange baby. The baby calls up to them wondering why they are fighting. She holds their hands and they all get calm. They decide they no longer care whose name comes first or last in the child's name. Seeing how the baby brings life to the team, how everyone is happy to be with her, Kurt realizes she could be an area that reunites them all, so he suggests naming her Akuri, meaning area. The name goes well accepted by the others, and the kid jumps at her new name. Despite the happy moment, Yulisha is skeptical about the strange child. She sends her hair and saliva to Mimiko for testing, because she decides what she will do with the child. The following day, Kurt builds a room for the child in the house. Akuri is excited, but to Yulisha, the room isn't a room, it is a cave. She had built it in such a way that there is no window that the girl can come out through, and there is also magic around in case she is sincerely evil. As another caution, Yulisha has also ensured that Liselotte and Akuri will not meet, at least until she gets feedback from Mimiko regarding the strange child. She has some deals to attend to with Kurt, so she calls him to leave. Akuri wishes to go with them, but they tell her she can't come. She asks Sina to take care of the baby until they return. On their way, she tells Kurt that they have to deal with what they want to deal with as soon as possible, so that they will return to Akuri. Suddenly, she hears a baby sound in the carriage. She asks Kurt if he heard the same sound, and when he says yes, she goes to the carriage to see. She is shocked to see Akuri dressed in the carriage. They consider if she had sneaked away and followed them. They can't take her on their trip because the people at home will be worried about her, so they have to return her home. However, they do not have enough time to do that. Luckily, Yulisha sees a lady on a horse behind them and asks the lady to help. While she is away, Kurt considers what she is worried about. Yulisha didn't refuse the child because she doesn't like her, but because she is concerned about them. He wonders if he had made the right decision and what he will do if the child turns out to be evil. Yulisha comes there and cuts him out of his thoughts. She knows what he is thinking about, and he is right too. However, no one knows what the child may be in the future, so none of them is wrong. They all stand there as an elderly man comes to urge them on their trip to save the city. And both Akuri and Kurt reply excitedly, while Yulisha remains lost at their excitement. Referring to Kurt as the traveling hero and Akuri as his retainer, the old man requests them to save the world from the Demon King, and they, with full determination, reply back saying they'll do their best. The old man's daughter-in-law comes there just then, explaining her father has lost some screws in his brain lately and has been spouting nonsense non-stop. So she tells Kurt and Yulisha not to take his words seriously. In any case, she thanks all of them for coming here, revealing that she's the client who asked for their assistance. Before telling them about the job, the lady makes a comment saying how good the married couple looks with their child, leaving both Kurt and Yulisha flustered. Just before Ulyssia and Kurt can clear up the misunderstanding, Akuri makes it worse, calling Kurt her papa and Ulyssia her Yuli mama, as if she has several moms. Ulyssia's face turns red like a tomato, and in shock, she doesn't know what to say. On the other hand, Kurt wonders if Ulyssia got offended and decides to make it up to her through his hard work. So he asks the lady what the job is about, and she explains that they have a pig farm where the pigs are all looking pale. They haven't been eating their food recently, and if this keeps going on, all of them are going to perish. While Akuri is acting like a gullible child trying to feed the pigs some grass, Kurt takes a look at the farm and figures out the root of the problem. He believes the pigs are suffering from heat exhaustion and offers the lady to prepare them a feed that will relieve them from it. The lady allows it and leaves Kurt to do it, saying she must go take her father-in-law on a walk in the meantime. Before getting into it, Kurt looks for Ulyssia and finds her at the same place she was standing before, and her face is still as red as a rose. She is unable to stop thinking about her living a married life with Kurt, and Kurt also notices that, but he doesn't think she is in on the idea of them getting married. Rather, he gets the misunderstanding that she's super offended and is boiling with rage. So, to make it up to her, he gets to work quickly making the food while Akuri playfully runs all around him. Then he feeds the pigs, when Ulyssia finally comes back to reality, slapping herself continuously for allowing herself to indulge in naughty fantasies. She tries to convince herself that she's not attracted to the boy with no brain and is just doing her strictly professional job to protect him at all costs. But as she looks at him, her chest starts to beat rapidly, leaving her wondering what these feelings mean. Just then, a dragon flies over her and descends in front of Kurt and Akuri. Ulyssia panics, but the dragon means no harm though, as it has also come to eat the food Kurt has prepared. Kurt calms Ulyssia down, saying it's pretty common in rural areas like his village for dragons to show up and eat food prepared for livestock. Ulyssia knows damn well it's not common at all, but she doesn't bother arguing with Kurt about it. It's the first time Akuri is seeing such a majestic beast, and she literally asks Kurt and Ulyssia if she could pet that dog. Kurt explains to her that this beast isn't a dog and educates her by saying the beast is a child dragon. Ulyssia smells the stench of blood out of nowhere and goes to take a look when she finds a phantom member from Mimiko's protection squad, who was tasked with protecting Kurt, unconscious. At that moment, something moves behind the bushes, and Ulyssia, acting quickly, draws her sword. Seconds later, Kurt hears swords clashing from a distance, but before he can see what's going on, Ulyssia screams at him, telling him to take Akuri with him and run away. Kurt picks Akuri up in his arms, but before they can leave, the assaulter comes out with sharp claws like Wolverine and demands they hand the child over to her. Kurt, for obvious reasons, misinterprets the words, thinking that by child the woman is referring to the child dragon, and asks her if she's a dragon hunter. However, Ulyssia doesn't think that's the case, and sensing something more sinister, she once again urges Kurt to leave immediately. The baby dragon, having more brain cells than our protagonist, quickly grabs Kurt and Akuri with its mouth and flies away. Ulyssia takes a moment to appreciate Kurt's talent, as he was able to tame a dragon that is known to never be friendly towards humans. She then turns to the assaulter, parrying her attack with her sword, but she can only keep up for so long against this new villain. As Miss Wolverine from Temu makes her fall to the ground, Ulyssia barely gets back up. She demands her to explain who she meant when she demanded the child. Was it the dragon, or was it Akuri? The woman doesn't bother explaining, since she doesn't think Ulyssia would be alive to do anything about it. To prove she's not just yapping, she disarms Ulyssia and wounds her stomach, making her fall to her knees. But Ulyssia keeps on fighting with all she's got, and throws Kurt's magic crystal at her as a last resort, using it like a grenade. Meanwhile, the lady from earlier is walking with her father-in-law when she overhears a loud noise and wonders what it is, and her father tells her that it's the demon lord wreaking havoc. But she doesn't take his words seriously, just like before. LOL. Ulyssia thinks the battle is finally over, but the woman comes out of the dirt, revealing her horns, meaning she's a demon. Perhaps the demon king the old man was warning them about. The demon woman confirms it, revealing she knows that Ulyshia's group has already defeated a demon lord, which makes Ulyshia realize that she's been keeping an eye on them ever since the city was attacked. Ulyshia wonders what she should do now. She no longer has any weapons, so she gives up here, hoping at least Kurt would be safe momentarily, assuming he's going back to their town with the dragon. At that moment, when she admits that it is the end, she is glad that no matter what, she was able to protect Kurt, but the sound she hears from her side brings her back to reality. That voice, that person, is no other than Kurt. She can't believe that Kurt came back to her. Several thoughts fly through her mind. Has he returned with the dragon? With dragon's skills to fight? But even if he wants to fight, his combat skills are bad. Did I say bad? His combat skills are absolutely the worst. She can't imagine losing the very person she had been protecting. To make matters worse, the dragon throws Kurt into a tree. Yes, she is right. Riding on the dragon didn't make Kurt better at fighting. He is still the same mediocre guy he has always been. What a pity. She runs to him, asking why he came back, why he decided to die, knowing full well that he cannot fight. He admits that he made a rash decision, but he came back solely to escape with her. She hasn't even recovered from that reality when she hears another noise. Oh, what a day. She sees several pigs running toward them. The dust they kick up distracts the demon, and they climb onto one of the pigs and escape. While on the pig, she asks about Akuri, and he says Akuri is somewhere safe, waiting for them. She also asks Kurt if what he did is normal. Why did he decide to die? He admits that the decision he made was the most rash one, but he couldn't leave someone precious to him to die while he escaped. She feels indifferent in her spirit. He just called her someone precious to him. Compared to Lieselot, who is just delusional, she knows that when he calls her precious, he means it as a friend. Regardless, she feels both sad and happy. Why does her heart shake toward him? Does this mean she is in love with him? She doesn't even have time to consider all of this when a fire blazes across the pigs. The pigs disappear and she falls down with him. The demon returns, fire in hand. She borrows Kurt's blade to fight. She doesn't really intend to fight. She knows she doesn't have the strength to defeat the demon. Kurt came back to save her because he trusts her, so she can't betray that trust. She plans to use the fire-blazing technique to cut through the flames. It's a very delicate technique she has never successfully performed before, but she tries her luck. She tries to cut through the fire, but it doesn't work. Shockingly, she is unscratched. She sees Akuri on her head and realizes the demon had withdrawn the fire. What does this mean? Was Akuri the child the demon was looking for? These questions remain in her heart, unanswered. Before she can speak, she collapses, and the demon leaves. Kurt quickly heals her, and Akuri touches her, telling her she will be fine. She opens her eyes and replies that she is fine. So many questions are on her mind. The first question she has is how Akuri had jumped on her head earlier. She asks them what had happened, and to her shock, Kurt says that Akuri didn't jump. In fact, she was very far away at the time the incident happened, which means she had used teleportation magic. That shocks them the most. Ulyshia knows that teleportation portals aren't a developed magic in their world. Even the people who had attempted it, it's still considered unrefined magic. To make it worse, Akuri had teleported without a teleportation stone. She asks her if she could do it again, but Akuri says no. Before she could inquire further, Pig comes to call their attention, and they see all the sick pigs around. Kurt and Akuri immediately go to heal them, and Ulyshia returns the pigs to the woman. The woman asks her about her husband, and instead of explaining that he isn't her husband, she just says that a villager helped him, and he has gone to appreciate the villager. The villager is no other person than the dragon. As they fly, the dragon calls Kurt's attention to something, and he goes. Akuri and Ulyshia drive away. Ulyshia keeps thinking about Akuri. She asks her if she was the one that dispelled the magic, and Akuri says no, which means the demon withdrew the fire. Why did she do that? Was it because of Akuri? All these questions linger on her mind. She has to investigate more about Akuri, and thankfully, she is still alive to do that. Suddenly, they see the dragon bringing back Kurt, and he is with a visitor. That visitor is the demon. There are so many questions to be answered, and he starts answering. Indeed, when the dragon took him away, he met the demon injured. He doesn't know what to do, so he takes the initiative and decides to make an antidote for her. She asks him what he is doing, and when he says it is an antidote, she calls him a fool for wanting to save his enemy. He admits that he is stupid, but he doesn't see her as an enemy, because if she hadn't withdrawn that spell, both Akuri and Ulysses would be dead. Since one good turn surely deserves another, he will help her. He makes the antidote and gives it to her to drink. She drinks, suddenly feels agile, but falls off again. He admits that he had added a sleeping dose to the antidote and that she will sleep for about 3 days. No matter how much he wants to help her, she hurt his people. Even if she is a demon hunter, she isn't meant to hurt humans, and that is her punishment. She is shocked, but he bundles her into his cart. Seeing the demon makes Ulysses feel indifferent. Is this a risk? Is it fine? She doesn't know. Regardless, she returns home. Getting home after a few long days is great for her. It feels like she has been away from home for a long while. Thankfully, she is back home. Sina and the others come to hug Akuri, since they had been concerned about her. Liselot also comes to hug her. Ulysses knows she is not meant to allow Liselot and Akuri to come in close contact with each other. But it is a happy day, so she can compromise. As she remains in her thoughts, a random man comes down from the atelier. To make it worse, Liselot introduces this man as the new atelier master. She imagines he is the one they will present to the world instead of Kurt, but Ulysses hasn't been informed of this beforehand, so she is dumbfounded. This cute woman can never get a break with these kids she is taking care of, can she? The new atelier meister is Rikuto, and Rikuto gives his thanks to Kurt for making such a fine atelier. He hopes Kurt will continue doing his best for the atelier and motivates him to keep working hard. Meanwhile, Ulysses becomes suspicious of Rikuto as she hasn't heard from Mimiko or Ophelia about him yet, so she first asks Kurt to go inside, telling him to go make dinner or something. She also sends Sina away, instructing her to babysit Akuri. Then she turns to Rikuto when he, out of nowhere, acts too dominantly, and seeing through the audacity, it doesn't take Ulysses any time to realize that this guy is actually an illusion created by Lisa's sword, which was created by Kurt. So, technically, Kurt got fooled by his own magic. LOL. Anyway, nobody asked, but Lise tells Ulysses what inspired her to create this alpha male, explaining she imagined and envisioned what Kurt would look like 20 years in the future. Jokes aside, the illusion dispels all of a sudden, leaving a piece of paper behind from Mimiko, who informs Ulysses that she will be coming here after 3 days once she completes her investigation report on Akuri. 3 days later, Mimiko arrives, and she gives her report, telling the group that after a thorough investigation, her team has reached the conclusion that Akuri's existence is completely unknown, making her a new discovery. Mimiko goes into an explanation of how Akuri has human traits, but some of her body parts, like her nails, contain a substance similar to the magic crystals used for spatial magic, which is impossible to find in humans. Apparently, spatial magic is a lost magic that one can use, and that is why Akuri is something different, perhaps not dangerous. But Mimiko doesn't want to take any chances and proposes that they cast a sealing curse on Akuri, so that she cannot use spatial magic like teleportation anymore and bring her to her research lab to figure out what she is. Kurt stands against the idea immediately, comparing himself with Akuri, stating if she can trust him, why can't she trust Akuri? He also brings up the fact that Akuri is incredibly humble and kind, and that she tried to help the demon woman after seeing her injured, even though the demon woman was after her life. And that is why Kurt believes Akuri should be treated as a fellow human friend, not considered a threat just because she has powers they can't control. Kurt makes it clear he won't allow Mimiko to take Akuri away from them, and Ulysses and Lise take his side, making it clear that the 3 of them are little Akuri's parents. Mimiko understands that they can take Akuri's responsibility, so she doesn't indulge in this matter anymore and gets up, wanting to see the demon woman who is locked up in the basement. Kurt requests her not to throw the demon into prison, but what options does she have? I mean, demons are the archenemies of humans. Anyway, Mimiko goes downstairs, injects a syringe into the demon, and wakes her up. The demon doesn't want to talk, giving the reason that warriors don't speak if it isn't deemed necessary. From her statement, Mimiko realizes that this demon is a demon warrior. She tries provoking her, and the demon gives in, under no pressure, trying to attack her. But a barrier magic set in this cell nullifies her magic. Now that the demon fully understands how powerless she is here, Mimiko interrogates her, asking if she has any allies nearby. The demon refuses to answer though, stating she will only speak with the one who has defeated her. So, Mimiko brings in Kurt, who literally refers to the demon as Onisan, or older sister, asking her if she is feeling okay now. The demon in reply tells Kurt that her restraints are hurting her, hoping Kurt will be dumb enough to release her, but Kurt refuses, apologizing to the demon, stating he has been told by Mimiko and the others not to release her until they are done interrogating her. So the demon goes straight to the point, stating that Kurt mentioned Hildegard's name earlier. For context, Hilda is the demon girl who we saw Kurt sharing his first kiss with during his early teenage days. Anyway, Ulicia asks Kurt who the demon is talking about, and Kurt explains that she is referring to a girl who often came to his village with her father, who came there for trading work. According to Kurt, both Hilda and this demon have similar horns, and that's why Kurt mentioned Hilda's name to the demon, thinking they might know each other. When Kurt confirms that the Hilda he is talking about is also the Hilda the demon knows, the demon reveals that she is actually here because she wants to save Hilda. Apparently, Hilda is being held captive by Margrave Tycone, but that doesn't explain why she was trying to kill Kurt or Akuri, or the dragon, or whoever. In any case, Kurt begs Ulicia that they must go save Hilda at once for his sake. But Ulicia isn't so easily swayed. She demands the demon explain why she was after Akuri, and the demon explains why. Apparently, when she was investigating the Margrave, she learned that the Margrave was investigating the Atelier, which led her to see Akuri appear in Kurt's carriage out of nowhere. Realizing she was using a lost magic to teleport, the demon wanted her powers so that she could teleport to Hilda and rescue her. Kurt once again believes the demon immediately without verifying the truth, but Ulicia wants proof. So the demon shows them her pendant hidden underneath her treasures, which has the griffin crest that Hilda used to wear. Apparently, Hilda gave the demon the crest. Also, earlier when the demon stopped attacking Akuri, she only stopped because she saw Ulicia holding Kurt's dagger with the same crest, and Kurt explains his dagger was given by Hilda. Now that everything makes sense, everyone, including Mimiko, agrees to go save Hilda. However, Mimiko still can't allow the demon to leave for obvious reasons. Kurt promises the demon he will save Hilda, and trusting him, the demon gives him her name, Solflare. Akuri appears there out of nowhere, and Kurt immediately scolds her for interrupting an important discussion. She apologizes and is about to cry, as she only came here to play with them. After handling Akuri, Kurt turns to Mimiko for help, as he doesn't possess anything required for the rescue mission. All they have to do at this point is come up with a plan. A formidable plan that no one can find out. Without any effort, Liselot brings out the map to Margrave Tycone's house. They ask her how she knows about all of this, and she gives them a record. The first Margrave in that apartment was Margrave Tanga. He and his wife, Farnard, died 10 years ago after giving birth to their daughter, Famil. Suspiciously, the daughter died some years ago because of a strange sickness. Strange, right? Yes, it is. Regardless of how miserable Margrave Tycone is, they need a plan. His house isn't filled with several rooms, but there is a room in that house that he doesn't allow anyone to enter. I really wonder why. What other place could they imagine Tycone would keep Hildegard if not this strange room? Reports have also shown that he takes food into this room on several occasions. This means he is feeding his victim, but to what end? Solflare reveals she knows about the room. She has gone there before, but was unable to enter because of Tycone's security. The room is always locked. No one else has access to it, and the key is always with him. This means they have to be very smart to gain access. You can trust our team to bring in their A-game here. Well, Liselot is the first to come up with a perfect plan. Since Tycone is always with the key, they should make him open the door. How will they do that, though? She explains further. She suggests they create an illusion of a thief entering the room. That way, Taikoni will be scared that someone wants to release his captive. As a result, he will open the door himself, and they can gain entrance. Perfect plan, right? I look forward to the execution of it. Thankfully, the festival is happening very soon, and they have to visit the city. Since the atelier master has to work there, and Liselotte has created an illusion of the atelier master, she suggests they use the illusion that she had created, Rikuto, to gain entrance. The plan is perfect, but they need to take Kurt along because they can't imagine him staying in the atelier with a demon. His real identity as the master is hidden, so they need a cover-up to take him along. Since it is a festival, Liselotte suggests they ask him to follow them so he can explore the city and know the kind of meals they eat there. Smart, right? A smart plan that leaves the two competitors for our sweet Kurt wondering if they will be taking him out to a festival or on a date. They, Liselotte and Ulicia, both plan a rock-paper-scissors game to decide which day they will be with Kurt. Liselotte gets the first day, thereby getting Ulicia angry. I think I want girls arguing over me in the same way. Eventually, they go on the trip and arrive at their lodge. And yes, Akuri follows them on the journey too. Rikuto excuses himself to go and rest, and Ulicia asks Kurt to remain with Liselotte and Akuri while she goes to investigate Taikon. As usual, our Kurt feels useless because they aren't giving him a job. He says he would prefer going with Ulicia to investigate, but Liselotte protests. That's her first opportunity for a date, and she won't allow Kurt to destroy it for her. She pitches how fun the day will be with her, how they can go to the festival and watch the show happily. He sees her vision and decides to stay with her. On the first day of their trip, she takes him to the city for the festival. So they won't get lost, he carries Akuri in his hands and asks her to hold tightly to him, just like a happy family. They stop to get fruit, and as fathers sacrifice for their family, he buys for them without buying for himself, so he shares with them. However, as he takes a sip from Liselotte's fruit, her face lights up again. The love of her life is drinking from the same place she had drunk from. When he returns the fruit, she pours all the juices into her throat immediately, and he wonders why she is rushing it all. Even after the drink, she keeps the fruit in her bag. He is of the opinion that it should be thrown away, but who throws away such a gem? She lies that she likes it because it is a fruit native to them. They continue on their festival trip, and she wonders if he has attended several festivals because he has gone on several adventures. He reveals he has seen several festivals, but he didn't have the chance to experience them because he was just a cleaner in the team, and he had to be there to do the other things for the team. This makes her feel bad. He tells her he wants to enjoy the day and also ensure Akuri enjoys it too. Liselotte makes it her mission that he gets a good day, especially because she plans to confess her feelings to him after their day. They walk through the market and engage in competition, where he wins the weightlifting competition and she also wins the arrow competition. Her goal is simple. He would get to have a good day, appreciate her for being by his side, and she will confess her feelings, which won't happen when they are in the market. So she takes them to a silent park. To her, the day has ended. He had fun. He enjoyed being with her, and by that time of the day, the entire world would be bright in his sight and her confession would hold water. She sees him standing and looking at a building. She plans to tap him there for her confession, but when she goes nearer, she sees the building. Unfortunately for her, he is staring at Taikoni's building. She immediately knows he is bothered about Hildegard, and instead of being selfish, she asks him if he is worried. He confesses that he is not worried. Everyone has promised him that they will save Hildegard, and if he is worried, it just means he doesn't trust them. However, he feels useless once again because everyone is doing their part, but he can't do anything. The best way to console someone in this situation is by telling them how good they have done. She reminds him that he took away her poison and even built the atelier in a day. Those are achievements according to her, but he doesn't see them as such. He insists that anyone else would have done the things he had done, and they weren't big deals. It is not a big deal to heal someone. Kurt's mentality is actually crazy. She thinks of what to console him with, so She tells him she likes him, not in an emotional way, as in a confession, but telling him that everyone adores him. Everyone in that atelier is there because of him, because they like him. In fact, that is the reason they are also offering to rescue Hildegard for him, not because it is their duty. He realizes what she means. He admits that he likes everyone there, and no matter how useless he may feel, he is glad he is useful to them. Her speech gets him emotional, and he tears up. Their emotional conversation is interrupted by Akuri, who says she is hungry. He goes to hold her, and she looks at him. Well, that would have been a great time for her to confess, but she couldn't. However, she is glad to see him smile, and that is enough for her. What do you think will be the end of this mission? Later, Ulycia asks Kurt to forge her a new sword since her last one got wrecked in the battle against the demon Soulflare. To make the sword, they need materials. And so, Ulycia brings Kurt to the mines where he collects some super crazy materials like usual. This time, mithril and adamantite. Normally, such materials would need a super niche furnace to turn them into an alloy, but Kurt here only needs a cooking pot. There's a dwarven blacksmith with them who can only smile in wonder, as he's never seen such a thing before. In no time, Kurt crafts one of the best swords in history, and using it, Ulycia can cut an entire boulder in half with no pressure. The dwarven blacksmith is completely dismayed, as he never thought Kurt's sword would turn out to be so epic, and accepting defeat, he leaves to re-hone his craftsmanship. Bro? Why was he there in the first place? Anyway, Ulycia names her new sword Snowflake and expresses her gratitude to Kurt, who smiles back at her in reply, which leaves her blushing, making it clear that she's totally fallen for his charm. The next early morning at the atelier, Ulycia reveals that she's going on a date with Kurt, just like Lise did, and in her case, she's made the excuse that she wants to study the market. Shortly after, Kurt and Ulycia go out without Akuri this time, as she hasn't woken up yet, and Ulycia is pretty glad that there isn't going to be a third wheel between them. Moving on, Ulycia expresses to us viewers in secret how much she wants to outshine Lise. But the problem is, she doesn't know what Lise did on her date to impress Kurt. In any case, trusting her adventurer capabilities, she makes a plan to show Kurt the hidden gems of the city, hoping it will help her get the upper hand. Before her mission can begin, though, it ends abruptly as the two come across some local goons wrecking a meat bun stall. The shopkeeper can be seen on his knees, begging the goons to stop. The shopkeeper's daughter is also with him, and seeing both of them in such a miserable state, Ulycia's ethics make her want to step in. But that would mean the date will be ruined. Finding herself in this dilemma, she turns to Kurt, who has already rushed to the stranger's fight without giving it the slightest thought, demanding an explanation from the goons for their violent act. The piggy-looking goon, in reply, tells Kurt to mind his own business, but little does this piggy know, Kurt is unemployed and has nothing better to do in his life. Ulycia, meanwhile, in the background, realizes that a peaceful date with Kurt is never going to happen, so she gives up completely. Anyway, the bigger goon explains that this shop apparently sold them some pretty shitty meat buns, and they, being responsible citizens, don't want any other person to experience such bad food. That's why they are wrecking the shop, calling it humanitarian work. Kurt doesn't trust them though, so he buys one of the buns from the shopkeeper, and upon having a taste of it, realizes that not only is this food good, it is sold at a very cheap price, meaning these goons are a bunch of liars. The little piggy doesn't want to be called wrong, so he pushes Kurt, and that triggers Ulycia, who steps in, telling the goons that they better say sorry as they've picked a fight with the members of the atelier. The boss goon doesn't want to get his ass wiped by the atelier, so he runs away and his two underlings follow. Hence, the day is saved for the earnest shopkeeper. Kurt notices that the shopkeeper is injured, and upon a close inspection, deduces that the man's bones are broken. Ulycia doesn't worry, since Kurt can easily heal this man, but the unaware idiot here thinks it's better to take the shopkeeper to the hospital. He doesn't even bother listening to Ulycia and rushes off to the hospital, carrying the shopkeeper on his back. Ulycia can't believe she got ditched on their first date, and she can't even grieve as she now has to console the shopkeeper's daughter, who has gone into crying. She decides to buy the kids some juice and conveniently learns from the seller that it was the nearby Gargel restaurant that hired those goons because there's a cooking competition later today, and the restaurant doesn't want the meat bun stall to win. Realizing that her date got ruined because of the Gargel restaurant, Ulicia wants revenge. Kurt returns with the news that the shopkeeper has been admitted to the hospital and will have to stay there for a day. Kurt, being the humanitarian he is, doesn't want the meat bun stall to go out of business, so he decides to become the substitute shopkeeper here, and Ulicia's hate for the Gargel restaurant increases even more as she now has to waste her time here. She gets amped up, and both she and Kurt decide to enter the cooking competition and crush all of the other competitors, especially the Gargel restaurant. The only problem is, this stall doesn't have any more meat buns, and if Kurt just uses one of his cheat skills to make tons of them in the blink of an eye, the shopkeeper won't be happy. So, they decide to teach the kid how to make the meat buns using Kurt's modified recipe. While Ulicia goes to gather the ingredients Kurt wants, Kurt decides to dig underground for one special ingredient. And what might that be? Worms. Anyway, the cooking competition begins soon after, and the judges taste the Gargel restaurant's food, finding it exquisite and sublime. Actually, the judges' judgment has apparently been swayed by bribes given by the restaurant's chef, and this ensures the Gargel restaurant's win. However, public opinion can change anything, and this time, the Gargel restaurant's chef notices that everyone in the crowd is talking about how delicious the meat buns are, leaving him wondering if the goons he hired failed at their job. Even the owner of Gargel restaurant cannot be more shocked by what he is hearing. The crowd around the bun store shocks him even more. He goes there and wonders why the boys he had sent couldn't do a good job despite how much he had paid them. How much does he want to pay when the great Kurt is there, doing miracles? Once again, he looks around and sees people sitting in the hot spring. A hot spring in that city? He had never seen one before. He wonders if the spring is a new attraction that the owner of that place had brought in to get good reviews. At the moment, those are even the least of his worries. He has to worry about winning the competition first. He crashes and whines while standing in awe. As expected, the judges of the competition come there to taste too. The crowd standing there makes them optimistic that something great must be happening. So one of them suggests they should also buy so they can judge the meal. Gargel protests immediately. The bun looks black inside, and he doesn't think it is safe enough for human consumption. Well, I don't blame him. What else would a hater say? Before he successfully convinces the judges against the store, Luna comes there with a tray of snacks. She recognizes those men as the judges and asks that they take a bite from her meal. Gargel begs them otherwise. He insists they will eat poison if they taste it. The girl agrees that it looks black. That is because of the ingredient they had used to prepare it. They prepared an onco, which was made with caucus. They used red beans, which Kurt had brought, because Kurt had told them that if they prepare red beans in a hot spring, it will produce honey, and every bite of the meal will be a pleasure to the tongue. She successfully convinces the judges, and they take a bite. Their first bite takes them to the sky. They feel like they are in paradise. The meal is indeed a pleasure to the stomach. They are amazed at how good it is. Gargel also takes a bite, and he immediately understands why others are standing in a queue for hours just to take a bite, because it tastes so good. He doesn't care about that. He knew his store wasn't the best. He just wants a win regardless. Before he talks, Ulicia comes there. He asks her how they were able to make something that beautiful. She reveals all the processes they had gone through, and he insists that there is no way anyone can do those steps easily within hours. Who told him our Kurt is just anyone? Ulicia further tells him the meals were made with hot water, which was gotten from an underground spring. That gives him a chance at survival. An underground spring means they had dug out the city. First off, no one can successfully dig the city that easily, but she insists that Kurt did that. He uses his second excuse, which is the fact that even for the atelier, they aren't allowed to dig the city without the consent of Margrave Tycone. To his shock, they had gotten consent. Liselot had met with Tycone and gotten consent for them, and the hot spring Kurt had dug isn't useless. It would be used as a leisure center for the kingdom and would be great. Seeing that he has lost, Gargel drags the judge he had bribed, reminding the judge of their agreement, and that the judge cannot let that restaurant win. But how will the judge lie even in the presence of those overwhelming truths? The man tells him he doesn't want his money again, and he can't deny the restaurant their win. Gargel is frustrated. He looks ahead and sees the thugs he had paid. He runs to them and fights them, asking that they return to destroy the restaurant, and not to worry because even if they are arrested, he will bail them out. Unknown to him, he is speaking to the illusion created by Liselot. His gang had been arrested, and now he will be arrested too. Ulysses appears behind him, revealing that they've also discovered he's the one supplying the Margrave with ingredients. And worse, he uses the leftovers from the Margrave's kitchen to cook at his restaurant. That alone is a crime, but it doesn't end there. He also puts drugs in his meals to get customers high and addicted to his food. He's stunned. How could they have found all this out? He turns around and sees that Liselotte has taken his form. Ulysses explains that they impersonated him and questioned the chefs, who confessed everything. Now, facing arrest, he panics and decides to fight back. He pulls out a knife and tries to attack Liselotte. Well, that escalates things, from minor offenses to full-blown treason. I mean, who attacks a princess? Of course, he has no idea who she is, until Liselotte takes the opportunity to introduce herself, just so he knows how deep he's sunk. Yikes. The guards drag him away as he cries and laments that all he ever wanted was to fight some buns, and now fighting buns has ruined his life. Ulysses doesn't really feel fulfilled by how the day turned out. You can just imagine all the daydreams she'd had about a lovely date with Kurt, and this is how it ends? Liselotte can't help but laugh at her misfortune. Her romantic day ended in pure chaos. Still, it wasn't all bad. She saw how happy Kurt was, and even little Luna was thrilled. That's enough for her. News of Gargel's arrest reaches Tycone. Unsurprisingly, he's not shocked about the crimes. I wouldn't be either, to be honest. I wouldn't put it past him to be involved. However, he also finds out that every chef associated with the scandal has been arrested. Now he's worried. Who's going to cook for the tea party he's hosting in Liselotte's honor the next day? His assistant quickly tells him that the judges have announced the winner of the cooking competition. They can just hire that person. Sounds like a convenient fix. Still, something nags at him. He starts to worry about what Liselotte is up to. Maybe she's discovered his secret and knows what he hopes to gain from his upcoming meeting with the atelier master. He brushes off the suspicion for now. Meanwhile, Liselotte, Ulysses, and Kurt meet with Rikuto. They show him a map of the Margrave's house and explain that he needs to sneak into the kitchen and find out whether Hildegard is being held there. That way, they can confront Tycone with solid proof and demand her release. Rikuto agrees and reassures Kurt that he's got this. Kurt should go back and help at the bun shop. After Kurt leaves, Liselotte drops the illusion. An illusion can only exist if the creator, Liselotte, in this case, is holding the sword. But illusions can't hold objects. That makes things tricky. Liselotte can't be the one holding the sword while she's with Tycone, and Rikuto may need to hold or move things too. So, here's the plan. Liselotte will create illusions of both herself and Rikuto. Meanwhile, her real body, holding the sword, will remain invisible and follow closely behind Rikuto to help by holding things when necessary. Plan locked in, they head to Tycone's house. As they approach, Liselotte summons the two illusions. But just then, they receive a shocking update. Kurt has been hired by Tycone to be the chef for the event. Well, what they thought would be their biggest challenge might now be the perfect twist. Will Kurt's presence complicate Hildegard's rescue or make it easier? Stay tuned for the next part.